It's so insane. I love it. Okay, so how are you guys doing? You guys good?
Fantastic.
Oh, I know you're fantastic. How are you doing up there? You hanging out? All right. Will's chilling, messing with all the computers and the sound. It's crazy. He's pushing all the buttons. No. All right, so we've come a long way, actually. We've covered a lot of ground, I think. And we've got 2 more talks today and then 2 tomorrow. And so we've kind of done the atheist role play, and then we talked about what being an ambassador for Christ was like, and like looks like, knowledge, wisdom, character, led into apologetics, what it is and why it's important. And then I just briefly talked about my story. And I kind of want to call us back to, well, know what? How about this? I'm going to ask a question. I asked it before, but maybe we can spend a little bit more time on it. Like, if you guys met somebody like I used to be, super aggressive atheist, how would you feel? Well, you have met me, yes. Oh, you have? And how'd that make you feel? Oh, sad because it's your, so you actually know somebody, your brother. She's like, sad because of my brother. Oh, he became a Christian. Well, you should get him some solid apologetic stuff. Yeah, I'm glad that you're here because he's questioning. That's great. You know, I had talked that sometimes when you're faced with somebody like me or during the atheist experience, you probably fell into one of these 3 categories as to how you felt. You know, a few of you are like, there was a young, was that you over here that you enjoyed it? You switched seats on me. This is not supposed to happen in church. This is not church, like this is not how church, you have your seat. Like, okay. What are you thinking? Switching, oh my gosh, it's totally new perspective in church. You crazy, crazy person, you. I know, yeah, you crazy Baptist. Oh yeah, I sit in different seats on Wednesday than I do on Sunday. Like, thank you. I'm so sorry. I pretend like I know everybody, and I think you all have my same sense of humor, and then I realize, oh man, I could seriously offend people. But I don't really care because guess what? You have to love me, even if I'm offensive. Anyways, you know, some of you, like you guys, some of you like really love the opportunity. Like if I said to you guys, hey, guess what? Surprise, we're gonna go to Pensacola, downtown Pensacola, and we're gonna see what kind of people we can talk to evangelistically. Some of you are like, yeah, let's do it. Some of you are, I'll do it because I'm going with John and like it's gonna be fun. But there are a few of you who are just completely, yes, I'm hopping in my cab. Yeah, I'll see you there, and you go the opposite direction, right? Don't weigh it up. You know, absolutely, and I get that, you know. And we had talked about why we possibly feel that way. And one of the reasons I think that we brought out is because we feel like we don't have answers or things like this. Well, I want to ask you guys, why do you think we feel anxious or we're nervous? What prevents you guys, how about this? What prevents you guys from sharing your Christian convictions with people? Let's just talk about it. Say that again. You don't want a millstone around. Whoa, okay. I'm fairly certain that's like not the context of what Jesus said. Like, share your faith or else. If you mess it up, you're going to get a millstone. I think wasn't that in relation to preventing young people? What are you preaching here, Pastor? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So, like, how about we rephrase this? Causing somebody else to stumble. You don't want to say the wrong stuff. Thank you for that. Yeah. I fear that. I mean, I definitely hear that. Yeah. Proof positive of exactly why I don't ever say anything. No, yeah, absolutely. We don't want to say the wrong stuff. What if we're wrong? What else, guys?
I'm not going to portray any of my teens, but on our camp that we just got back, we asked the same question, and a lot of their responses were like, I don't want people to view me differently, like see me in a weird way, like or treat me.
Oh my,
Christians are weird.
that's real.
Yeah. Or like I don't want to like say the wrong thing, and
Absolutely. I love that. What if they say the wrong thing? What if they look weird? What if they make Jesus look weird? Like the whole Christian thing look weird. I get that. I wish they were here. That's great. Yeah, well, they want to avoid you. What if you break off friendships? Who here has lost a friend because you're a Christian? I have. Unfortunately, it's not by my doing, by their doing, but a lot of people. I go back east. I didn't grow up with any Christians, remember, guys. And when I go back east, my best friends are still my friends that I grew up with. And we have a saying where I'm from, in the Northeast, nothing changes but the weather. It's probably a similar culture here. If you're from here and you leave, you could probably come back 25 years later and it's still the same exact thing. People are living where they live, they're doing the jobs that they do, hanging out at the same bars or restaurants that they hang out at. And same with me. They're just now they own their parents' house as opposed to living in their parents' house. Nothing changes but the weather. And then when I go back, something's changed, and all of a sudden, I'm the same person in a lot of ways, but my affections have severely shifted and changed, and my priorities have changed, so it causes broken relationships. Yeah, so you don't want to look weird, you don't want to break relationships. Yeah.
We're looking at things from one extreme to the other, either being a total atheist
Yeah.
or a totally devout Christian, where my family in the Midwest is in between.
Yeah.
They think they're Christian, because they go to church on Sunday or on Easter and on Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And, if they do something bad, one Wednesday a month, some guy in a black dress will give you a penny, confess your sins.
Some guy in a black dress. I'm fairly certain there's a word for him. It's not, and I'm not sure he'd say he's wearing a dress, but okay.
Well, and he gives you penance, and then you say you're healing.
I know, yeah.
And then you're good to go to sin for another month.
I know, yeah.
Repeat the cycle. We're in between.
Yeah, absolutely.
They think they're Christian, but they're really not.
And that's hard to talk to people, yeah. So, but what prevents you from addressing those with them, that issue?
Be physically assaulted.
Yeah, well, sure. There's like you don't want to cause conflict. Well, when I became a Christian, I'll tell you what, I don't get invited to as many family gatherings anymore. That's just real, partly because of me and my temperament, partly because people don't want to hear it. I used to, and I'm going to share some of this stuff, like there's different tactics that we can use. And when I was I used to be more loud than I am now. We used to in my house have what we called the Jesus chair, where if you were at my house and you didn't know Jesus, I would do everything I could to steer you into that chair. And when you were there, guess what you were getting? The gospel, no matter what. And my family came to understand that's the Jesus chair, and they don't want to be there because it's weird. So guess what? They spent the entire time in the kitchen. They weren't coming into the room, And one time I was talking to my mom. She was in the Jesus chair. This is real, guys. She was in the Jesus chair. And my mom's not a hardcore atheist. She needs Jesus. She's more of like your average person. Jesus was a good guy, a lot of good ethics. I don't know where he's at. And she's a relativist, though, so she believes in what you're going to talk about next session, but she's a relativist. And I was just hammering her about relativism and how you can't live it out and stuff like this. And she stops me and says, John, what you're saying sounds right, but how you're saying it is awful. And I was like, oh, yikes. She got up and went to bed. And I was like, nobody wins with that. I didn't win, she didn't win, Jesus didn't win there, But I put a poor reflection on my worldview. I think that's a fear, how we're going to make other people look. Some of us, I think the reason what prevents us from sharing our faith ultimately has to do with one of two things, really. One, we put too much weight on ourselves. And two, we don't have a game plan. And that's where the fears come in. What if I say something stupid? What if I don't know what happens if somebody asks a question I don't know the answer to? Strategy, a tactic. And so first, I'd like to address both of those before we get into tactics and get into a game plan. The first has to do with put too much weight on ourselves. And it has to do with the fact that I feel like oftentimes, my personal experience has been, oftentimes I feel like if I don't get that person saved, or if they don't pray for some reason, then my evangelistic effort has failed. Like if you don't get them to come to Jesus, you've somehow failed in your efforts. But I think it's important at the onset of this conversation as we start to move more into practice, like how do we get these things, these ideas out into the culture? How do we talk to my family and friends that really, about something that's really, really important to us? It's important to understand that somebody's salvation does not rest on our shoulders. We can't resurrect anything. Jesus does. We can't save anything. Jesus does. And we need to understand that. So in a very real way, I alluded to this before in another talk, that we need to let God be God and 100% responsible for his, God is 100% responsible for salvation. We're responsible just to be his ambassador, just to have a conversation. And when we put that proper identity on, I think it's easier to talk to people. We don't feel that pressure. To be honest with you guys, I'm going to say something that's controversial. I oftentimes don't, and I mean, it doesn't always work out this way, but I don't even necessarily feel the pressure to get to the formal gospel in a conversation. Oftentimes what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to talk to somebody about something that's important. And if I get to the gospel, great, I'm trying to get there. Because the gospel is salvation unto men, right? I understand that. But sometimes we force it and it's weird. I remember I was on a plane. I had just, I've failed so many more times than I've succeeded, guys. It was a fairly new Christian. I was going to that big conference in Providence. It was in Providence this year, that big theological conference. And I had just gotten to grad school, so I just purchased a new computer. And I bought the Mac. It was a new MacBook Pro. It was when the MacBook came out with the Pro version. And it was like, I mean, it was awesome. This computer was amazing. It was so fast, and had so much memory and RAM. It was the best piece of computing technology out on the market by far. And I'm sitting on the plane, and I get on the plane early, and it was like one of those days where like everything's going my way. And I'm feeling really great. I had a great conference with all my great friends, and I'm about to go back home to my amazing wife and family. And I sit down on my plane seat, and there's a guy sits like a seat away from me, and even the seat in between us is empty. Like just like anytime that happens on a flight, you're like, hallelujah. Empty seat next to you never happens anymore. And the guy, it was perfect. The guy was like, I'm sitting there, and I had my Bible out like a good Christian. I had my laptop, and we just started to take off, and I just unfolded my laptop. And I pull it up and I start working. I see the guy eyeing my computer, we all do it. We look out side eye on the plane. I mean, everybody does it with like looking at the person. And then finally he says to me, he's like, hey, is that the new MacBook Pro? And I was like, yes, it is. He's like, wow, it's so cool. Is it as fast as they say it is? I'm like, yes, it is. Does it have as much memory as they say it does? Does it really perform like that? Yes, it does. And then I say this. I say, you know who's faster than a MacBook Pro? You know who has more memory than a MacBook Pro? Jesus. Jesus will not just transform your work life, he'll transform your life. And know what the guy did? Earbuds, screen, see you weird Christian. Didn't say anything the rest of the time. Didn't even acknowledge I was there. Because like I made Jesus look weird and I looked weird. And then like I should have just talked about my stinking computer to the guy and been like, yeah, this is cool. And then maybe he asked a question about my Bible. I'm like, yeah, I'm a Christian. And that happens normally anyways, but I tried to force the issue. It wasn't a good tactic. And we're going to talk about this today. And I feel like what happens is the reason why I acted like that, honestly, is because I had this pressure that I need, every interaction that I have with somebody needs to end in the gospel. Everybody here has to, if you don't lead somebody to the Lord, you're failing. Do any of you guys have friends who are just natural evangelists? Like, I have a friend who's a naturalist evangelist, and he leads people to the Lord all the time. And it drives me insane. I'll be in the elevator with him in a parking garage, and by the time we go from floor 1 to floor 3 where our car is at, he's led 2 people to the Lord. I'm like, what in the world? Amen. And here I am, I can't even lead my family to the Lord. Like, how are you doing this, man? Well, maybe it's because we're not all built the same way either.
We don't hear the gospel the same way either.
We don't hear the gospel, we don't explain the gospel the same way. We're not the same. Not all of us are built like my buddy. Not all of us are, you guys, thank God, well, a lot of you aren't like me. It'd be weird if we were all like me, wanting to go hang out on Santa Monica Boulevard on your day off to talk to like the strangest people you can find. It's not who we all are. And I think there's a difference. And Coco, my boss, kind of introduced this concept to my life, and it made a lot of sense. It took the pressure off of me, the pressure that we feel of salvation on people. And it's the difference between gardening and harvesting. I think when we think of evangelism, what we think is basically harvesting. Leading that person to the Lord, ripe fruit plucked from the tree. Where I don't think many of us are harvesters. I think a lot of us are gardeners. If you think about your own story, now we were talking about this in the car, for you Floridians, car. How do you say it in the South? Oh, that's not fun. There's no fun in that. It's just car. We were talking about this on the ride over here. How about that? Oh, over here. If you survey your own story, your own experience coming to Christ, even if you grew up in a Christian home, there's a moment where things change, right? Where you go from your parents' faith to your faith. And usually it comes at the end of a prolonged experience of people talking to you about Jesus, people talking to you about the Christian worldview, whether it be in Sunday school or friends or somebody like me that's just Christians in general. It comes at the end of a period of time where people have just been doing some gardening in your life. And then you're ripe for the plucking, and then you're harvested into the kingdom of God. I think that this is a normal process. And I think in the normal process of things, of salvation, as we lead people into the kingdom of God, as we lead people to the Lord, I think most of us, or a lot of us at least, are just harvesters. Are gardeners, not harvesters. Harvesters, what they do is they plant seeds. They pluck the fruit. Gardeners, what they do is they just till the soil, plant seeds, water it, and care for it. And then when the fruit is right, it falls into the basket, so to speak. And these aren't my ideas. I think Jesus is talking about this in John here. So Jesus, he says, do you not say that there are yet 4 months and then comes the harvest? Behold, I say to you, lift up your eyes and look to the fields. They're white for the harvest. And pay attention to what Jesus is saying here, right? This is evangelism, right? He's talking about people coming into the kingdom of God. That's what he's talking about. He's not actually, yes, anyways. Already, he who reaps is receiving wages and is gathering fruit for eternal life, so that he who sows and he who reaps can rejoice together. For in this case, the saying is true. One sows and the other reaps. I sent you to reap that for which you have not labored. Others have labored and have entered into their labor. Notice there's two groups, right? There's the people who sow and the people who reap. Not everyone is a harvester, guys. Many of us, I think, are gardeners, just like what Jesus is saying here. So there's two groups. But also, notice, there's two seasons, there's two types of workers, but there's one team.
That's right.
We're working together. God has not gifted us all the same.
Amen to that.
So we lean into our giftings, and I think a lot of us are just gardeners. And then, hopefully, we'll trust God, right? We'll trust God, and hopefully somebody who's gifted in the way that we're not will come and harvest that fruit. Normally, the fruit actually just falls right off the tree. But it's all one team, so that he who sows and he who reaps can rejoice together. And it's like this, guys, like this is what Jesus is saying here in this passage, that people are reaping that for which they have not sown. So, okay, my mom. I have been talking to my mom for almost 20 years now about Jesus. Now, if she calls me, say I'm in my hotel room tonight, and she calls me and she says, John, the most amazing thing just happened. I was in line at did you guys have Trader Joe's here?
Well, we know about that.
Yeah, so I was in Aldi. So John, I was in Aldi, and I was in the checkout aisle, and the guy behind me, he told me about Jesus, and everything just clicked, and he prayed with me, and I'm a Christian now. Do you think my response is like, what? That man came into my garden and stole my fruit? How dare you? Get out of my garden, you stupid harvester. I want no, of course not. I'm going to be like, Mom, praise God.
That's right.
Praise God. God sent the right person at the right time to pluck the fruit, something that I have been sowing, I've been watering, I've been praying. And praise God, now you are in the kingdom with me. We are now not just that'd be weird. Not just mother and son, but now we're brother and sister for eternity. Praise God. And we're going to celebrate like that. I think what we need to do is we need to realize that our time with people, most of us, we should just be doing a little bit of gardening. Just be planting seeds, watering the soil. Don't put the weight on you that if we somehow don't harvest the fruit right away, that somehow we've failed in our effort. In fact, we have a saying at Stand to Reason that our goal is simply to put a stone in somebody's shoe. That's what we want to do. So like if you're out and about, have you guys ever had a stone in your shoe? Yeah, and do you feel it? It's there. You try to get it out. Does it kill you? No, it just annoys you. So you just want to be annoying for Jesus in a good way. You don't really want to be annoying. What you want to do is you want to give somebody something to think about, perhaps in a way that they've never thought about it before, so that then when they walk away, they're reconsidering something in their mind. Like my brother, when I was talking to him about the existence of moral values and duties, I presented it to him in another way. At the end of that conversation, which I didn't get to, at the end of that conversation, as I said that to my brother, I said, no, I can do this. What you mean is I ought not do this. What do you mean by ought? My brother, he actually stepped back and he said, you know what, John? You've given me something to think about. That's my goal. I just want to give somebody something to think about in a new way. And if God provides that opportunity for me to share the gospel and lead somebody to the Lord, praise God. All the better. But it's also, it normally comes at the end of a prolonged season of gardening. Whenever I talk to somebody that I pray with to accept Christ, it's usually, I don't understand. Like the way you explained it today is exactly what my mom's been telling me, but it just sounded different. It makes sense to me. Well, that's because the Holy Spirit chose that moment to reveal it and turn that hard heart of stone to a heart of flesh. And praise God. And it comes at the long end of an effort by whoever it is, a friend or a parent or a loved one. So my goal is simply to do a little bit of gardening, a stone in their shoe, and offer that up. But how do we do that? So that's the first reason why people, I think, avoid evangelizing is because they put too much weight on their shoulders, too much responsibility. That if you don't get to the gospel, if you don't lead somebody to the Lord, you've failed in your effort. Well, take that weight off of yourself. All you need to do is put the stone in somebody's shoe. Well, the second reason that we talked about is because we don't have a plan. We don't want to look weird. What happens if they ask a question that we don't know the answer to? What happens if they spank us in a conversation and we look stupid? We don't want any of that to happen. Well, I think that if we can come up with a tactic, a plan, a game plan, going into those conversations, we can alleviate that, and then we're freed up not just from the responsibility aspect, but also from the tactical aspect. And when we come up with the game plan, I think in the next 30 minutes or so that we have, I can give you a game plan that's going to allow us to converse with confidence in any circumstance. No matter how aggressive the person you're talking to is, no matter how much they know or how little you know, get you a game plan so that you can have important conversations with people that you care about things that really, really matter in a way that's not offensive, that doesn't make you look stupid, that won't make them look stupid, that won't make anybody angry. I mean, and if you think about it, none of us want to get angry. If the person you're talking to gets angry, we don't win. If we get angry, we don't win. So we want to walk into these conversations in a way that's unoffensive, that's easy to navigate, and mainly that you stay in control of the conversation. It's a game plan. It's super simple to follow, but it's also kind of tailor-made to everybody. It's actually a game plan that Paul alludes to in Colossians 4. When he says, notice these things, he says, conduct yourself with wisdom towards outsiders. He's saying be smart. That's that wisdom component of being an ambassador. Making the most of every opportunity. Let your speech always be with grace, seasoned as it were with salt. He's saying be nice. So be smart, be nice, so that you will know how. That's the tactical. Be tactical. How you should respond to each person. Be smart, be nice, treat people as individuals. We've talked about this already. Well, because they're individuals. They're made in the image of God. They're blind, like we said. And be tactical. Now, not all tactics are equal. I shared my experience on an airplane. You don't want to copy me on the airplane. It's also, I have a short video that not all tactics are equal. This is my friend Kate trying to evangelize my friend Trip.
Conversation. Because you were talking about this whole Jeremiah sort of thing, but I'm just not convinced.
So he's trying to evangelize Trip right now, and he's doing a fine job, but he's being a little too wishy-washy with it, a little too relational. So I'm just going to step in with the heavy hitter, get the point across.
Is that why you're so good at volleyball?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Trip.
Yeah.
What was
If the person you're trying to evangelize walks away with a concussion, It's probably not a good tactic. Not all tactics are equal. Have you guys ever seen the movie with Jack Black, where he's the wrestler, Nacho Libre? Have you guys seen this? Do you guys remember the scene where they're about to go fight wrestle demons, Satan's warriors or whatever they are, and he's sitting there with his wrestling partner, and his wrestling partner's eating some salad, and he comes out of like the bathroom and he's like, "Why have you not been baptized?" And he's like, "I just haven't gotten around to it. I believe in science and stuff." He says this, and then what's Jack Black do? Do you remember? He fills up the bowl of water. Like, in the meantime, this guy's explaining why he can't believe in God. In the background, Jack Black, in his like uniform, fills up a bowl of water and brings it over. In the middle of this guy eating his salad, you've been baptized. Not a good tactic. Like, if you walk around Holt all day long with a bowl of water, just dunking people's faces in it, I mean, not good. How we go about things matters. If we hit people over the head with a huge Bible and expect them to come to Jesus, well, it's not a good look, guys. If they walk away with concussion, not a good look. Like, I'm not trying to get into a fight. In any conversation, I'm just trying to have a conversation. That's it. I'm not trying to get into a fight with somebody. I'm trying to have a conversation that I think is important, yes, but I'm putting people in their proper perspective. I'm trying to view them as human beings, made in the image of God, and talk to them about something that can change their life. And then that's the weight that I'm going to let God do the things. And I want you guys, as we go into this, I want you to, like, tactics, they're not like, they're not slick ruses, guys. Like, I'm not trying to, like, turn somebody into, like, a contorted pretzel of logic. Like, it's not a clever ploy to use to destroy people. The tactic that we're going to talk about, which is called Columbo, we're going to get there in a minute, it's not meant to manipulate. It's meant to manage. We want to manage a conversation, not manipulate people. And we want to learn how to maneuver through a conversation while also staying in the driver's seat of the conversation. So the tactic we're going to talk about is called Columbo. Do you guys remember the show Columbo? Oh, yeah. I went back and rewatched it, and it was not as good as I remembered it. None of those 80s shows are, except for perhaps MASH and Cheers. They're still fantastic, although I guess they don't age well with Cheers as Sam Malone, and he was not good to women. But anyways, do you guys remember who Columbo was? Who was Columbo? Who? Well, no, I mean, I know that, but in the show, what was Columbo? Mm-hmm. He was a detective. He looked like an idiot, right? When you watch it, that was part of his charm. Like, he was in a trench coat that he looked like he slept in. Yeah, he'd talk to somebody, he'd say, "So what happened here," right? He'd say, "What happened?" And they explained to him, he's like, "Oh, okay, very good. Hey, something bothering me." He would say that, right? "Something's bothering me." And then he'd ask a question, and he'd ask another question, and he'd ask another question. That was his thing, it was his habit. His habit was to ask questions, and that's the same thing that we want to get into. We want to get in the habit of asking questions. It's a good habit to get into. Well, why do we want to ask questions? Well, it's super simple, actually. Questions, they're polite. Questions are how we gather valuable information. They take the focus off of us. No pressure is on you when you're asking questions. And the most important component about this is the last one there. Questions, they keep you in the driver's seat. When you're asking questions, you're controlling the conversation. Notice, when you ask questions, you don't need to know anything. You're just asking questions. People like being asked questions of them. People like talking about themselves, what they believe and why they believe it. Have you ever noticed that? And also notice that if you're asking questions, they're the ones making claims, not you. So that means you have nothing to defend. You have nothing to prove. You're just asking questions. Schaeffer, I shared this maybe at lunch, or I think I might have shared this at lunch with some of you guys. But Francis Schaeffer, in the introduction to one of his books, it says this, that if I love this quote, "If I have only an hour with someone, I'll spend the first 55 minutes asking questions and find out what's trouble in their hat and mind. Then the last 5 minutes, I'll share something of the truth." I love that. Spend time getting to know people. And the way we get to know people is by asking them questions. Like, in order to, oftentimes when somebody raises an objection about God, the first objection that they bring up isn't actually their objection. This was true of me, if I'm honest with you, and it's true, I think, of a lot of people. When they're wrestling with these ideas of God, I think oftentimes their objections are personal, not intellectual. Like I think when somebody's wrestling, I think I mentioned this earlier, if somebody's wrestling with the problem of evil, I don't think it's the logical problem of evil. I think they're like asking like, why'd my parents get divorced? Why'd my wife die of cancer after just 8 years of marriage? They're asking these deep, heartfelt questions. Well, how do we know that if we're not asking questions? Instead, we want to spend some time getting to know the person, understanding what's troubling them, what's at the center of their belief systems. And then we can share something of the truth with them in the hope that God uses that. I love this quote. We want to love people, and a great way to love people is by asking them questions, getting to know them. Part of me loving, for example, my wife. If I said, oh man, and I think you get the picture from me just talking about, like, I really love my wife. Like, she is amazing. Like, I married way up. But if you said, hey, tell us about your wife, and I was like, yeah, I really love her. Yeah, well, tell us about her. And I'm like, well, she's like, I don't know, this tall. And she's funny. Oh yeah, tell me about it. Oh, okay, well, she has brown hair. And that's all I know about her. You're gonna be like, do you even know her? No, I don't know her if that's all I'm expressing. And the way to get to know people is by asking them questions. Then we can really understand what's troubling their hearts and minds. Okay, Francis Schaeffer's not the only one who says questions are good. Jesus, he asked a lot of questions. If you notice, Jesus, throughout, this is just the gospel. In the Gospels, he asked almost 300 questions, over 300 if you include Acts. Why do you think Jesus asked? Do you think Jesus asked a lot of questions because he didn't know a lot of stuff? No. Jesus knew everything. He's God. Hello. No, he asked questions because he understood the rhetorical power behind questions. He knew the force behind asking a question instead of just making a statement. So he asked a ton of them. And this is the tactic that we're going to use. It's called Columbo, and it's asking questions. And guys, I'm telling you, we're going to go over this tactic, and you're going to be like, this is too easy. It can't possibly work. If you do this, it works. And we only have time to go through the first two parts of Columbo. There's a third, and there's a ton of other tactics. For the full one, you just go, if you buy Kokel's book, it's called Tactics. When I read, and I'm not selling a book here, I didn't even bring them to sell, so I'm not profiting at all from this. I read Tactics with my wife before I was still at the firm, before I was a pastor, any of this stuff. I was just volunteering in our youth department. I ended up buying 100 copies of the book and handing it out to every student in our youth group in the hopes that just one would read, because it changed the way I did evangelism. It changed me. It's super easy, super straightforward, and we're just going to go through two applications. And the first application, guys, is we're going to gather information. So this is the first stage. The first application of Columbo is we gather information. And how do you gather information? Oh gosh, you guys are the smartest I've ever had. Yes, you ask questions. And keep in mind, guys, questions, it's not complicated. It's just a casual conversation starter. They can help you know, the question helps you know how to proceed in a conversation, in any given conversation as you're talking to somebody, how to navigate the next steps. You just ask a question. They can buy you valuable time to help you think. You can ask another question about somebody's thoughts on something while you're thinking in your mind about something maybe that was said before. And this is actually the first step in critical thinking. The first step in critical thinking is to clarify a claim. Has anybody homeschooled their kids here? You guys haven't gotten there yet, yeah. But if you homeschool, this is stuff usually homeschoolers are learning because they're learning what an argument is. So in an argument, there's two parts to every argument. There's the claim and then the evidence. Until you have both of those parts, there's no argument. So the first part is the claim, and you need to clarify the claim, what it is that we're actually talking about. And that's what this first step is meant to do, to clarify what it is that we're talking about. And the key question to this is simple. It's, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that is a question that we want to memorize. The first question is, what do you mean by that? What's the first question? Oh, that was so poor. We are now removed from lunch, and we can do better than that. What's the first question? What do you mean by that? Yeah, what do you mean by that? It's a clarifying question. It's delivered in a really inoffensive, mild way. There's a lot of power behind it. It tells you what a person is actually thinking. What do you mean by that? And it can sound different. It doesn't have to constantly be, what do you mean by that? It could be like, I'd like to know more of your thoughts on such and such, whatever it is you're talking about. It could be, can you explain what you mean by what you said here? Or by this. What's this mean for you is another version of that. And we're going to go through some examples. So what's the first question? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that is the first question. I'm telling you guys, you're like, this is so stupid. Why are we doing this? I can't believe it. Well, it's because it's powerful. And watch, as we memorize the first question, which is, watch where we can get with it. Okay, it's a clarifying question. We're trying to learn what somebody believes. And it's super simple. So let's just go through a few examples. Okay, these are my people. And let's see. Okay, there is no God. What's a question? If somebody says there is no God, what's a question you could ask? What do you mean by that? You guys are so smart. This is unbelievable. Now, you could offer a variation on this. It could sound like this. What do you mean by God? And here's why you could ask that. Because if you said that to me as an atheist, I would have said, oh, I can't believe in this angry sky daddy that's waiting for you to mess up so he can fire lightning bolts at you. You don't believe it? That's great. So I would say, well, that's fantastic. That's not the God that I believe in either. We can join each other in not believing in the same false God. But if you think about it, like when somebody said, I don't believe in God, don't you think it's important to understand what they think they mean by God? And oftentimes as Christians, what we do is we presume what we know about God on the other person when they say they don't believe in God. So don't you think it's important to understand what they mean when they say they don't believe in God? So instead of diving into an apologetic, instead of me going into the Kalam cosmological argument for the existence of God, oh yeah, well you don't believe in God, that means you can't believe in the existence of anything because you don't have anything to begin with. All you have to start with is nothing, you silly atheist. No, instead I'm going to say, well, what do you mean by God? When you think of God, what do you think of? I'm going to start a conversation that way. I'm not making any claims, it's just what do you mean by God? How about this one? I'm an atheist. What's the question? What do you mean by that? Yeah, absolutely. You guys are so smart. It's amazing. What do you mean by atheist? Because not every atheist is the same. You could be a hard atheist, which is like what I was. You know, I'm an atheist, like I deny the existence of God. But there's also soft atheists. And a soft atheist would say that they're more agnostic, like I don't know if there's God or not. There's also atheists who actually believe in they're dualistic, meaning they believe in an immaterial aspect. They believe in consciousness and the soul. Well, these things might be important as you're talking to an atheist to understand what they mean, what they're saying. Like, what do you mean by atheist? Tell me about that. You guys with me? All right. How about this one? This is my favorite. Everything's relative. What's a question you could ask? What do you mean by that? Absolutely. What do you mean by relative? How about this? You could ask the question. What's that? What is relativism? Ask them to define their terms. You could say, is the statement, is that statement relative? It's like somebody who says there is no truth. Is it true that there is no truth? You see, some of you are going to get a ride home. It's going to be amazing when you do. It's absolutely unbelievable. What do you mean by relative? What do you mean by everything? Everything's relative? So is that statement relative? You know, is it a matter of personal preference and opinion? What you're saying, we're going to talk about relativism next. And notice that you're not obligated to answer these things. You haven't made any claims. You're just asking them to tell you what they mean by the words that they mean. How about this one? This is a popular one that I get. You're intolerant. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by intolerant? And this is a really interesting to ask because oftentimes the people that say you're intolerant, what they're basically saying is you don't agree with me. Yeah, is that what it means to tolerate? Does tolerating something meaning agreeing with them? No. In order to tolerate something, it by definition means there's something you disagree with. You don't tolerate things you agree with with them. So notice the person who's, and actually the person, this is free here. This isn't even part of the course, or the class. But the people who say that you're intolerant, notice all they're doing here is calling you a name. It's an ad hominem against the man. They're just calling you a name, and so you as a Christian, you could be like, oh yeah, well you're ugly and your mother knows it. Haha, I could play this game. No, we don't respond like that. You know, we don't respond because you're talking to an image bearer. But you could say, you know what? I would say if somebody calls me intolerant, and oftentimes, not often, but sometimes they do, I'll say, what do you mean by intolerant? Well, you think you're right. Oh, okay. Well, do you think you're right? Yeah. So are you intolerant? Or I'll say this. After I point it out, I'll say, I think you might have a misunderstanding of what it means to tolerate something. I disagree with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm intolerant. But even so, even if I am intolerant, let's say for the sake of argument, I am intolerant. Now, can we get back to the topic at hand? Because calling me a name does nothing to show your position's true. Because we don't call people names. And we can point that out with people too, because when they say something like you're intolerant, you're a bigot, all they're doing is calling you a name. Don't even respond to it. Ask them a question. What do you mean by that? And here's a kind of a critical insight. When we're talking and somebody calls you intolerant and they say, well, you think you're right, you're not the only person. You're not the only person in the conversation who thinks they're right. Everybody who makes claims thinks they're right. That's why they make a claim. They believe what they believe. So we're not the only one who's being exclusivistic. They're holding an exclusive view as well. But I'm just only, like in this instance, you're the only one being called a name. Okay, so this is the first question. What do you mean by that? Ask it all the time. When somebody makes a claim, instead of diving into an apologetic, just ask them what they mean by that. What do you mean by that? And you can do it all the time. Now, there are limits to this. Like, say I get home and I walk in the door and my wife sees me and she says, John, you're an idiot. I'm not going to ask her what she means by that. Because she'll probably tell me. And also keep in mind that the natural response that more often than not, now this is important. Okay, what's the first question? When you ask that first question, the answer most of the time these days that you can expect to get are what I call the Simon and Garfunkel response, the sounds of silence. Most people haven't thought through what they mean by the words they say, especially today. We live in a hashtag culture. We live in a culture where oftentimes people just simply regurgitate what they see online or in TikTok or YouTube or whatever it might be, Instagram. Christians and non-Christians, by the way, expect to get silence. So, perfect example of this is recently, so my sister-in-law had triplets a year and a half ago. So I went to their birthday, their 1-year birthday party, and I'm standing outside, and actually before that, we're driving. We're the only Christians in our family, so my sister-in-law is like, it seems to me like everybody has a preconceived notion of what Californians are. Well, she is that. Like, she is very, very liberal. I mean, she literally just bought a place in Italy because she suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, like straight up. Like, she's like, I'm leaving the country. And I'm like, okay, can I use your place in Italy? You know? And so like, she is that. She is that. Very, very liberal, very, very, not anti-Christian, but just doesn't want anything to do with it. So normally I can't help myself. I speak to strangers in line. Surely I'm going to speak to my family. And we're driving up for the birthday party. My wife, she already knows everybody who's going to be there. And she says, John, can you just calm it today? No politics, no religion. Sure, babe. No problem. Like, whatever. I'm going to be on my best behavior because I love my wife. So I'm going to say, sure. I'd rather have my wife happy than me try to win a conversation. So I'm going into it with, I'm good. I can control myself. So I'm in the, we pull up to the house and we're there and everybody's inside and we had purchased like these like little scooter things for the kids for their birthday. So I was in the trunk of my car building it and my sister-in-law's ex-husband, John, comes out of the house. And the first words, not like, hey, how are you? How you been? I haven't seen him in a while. He says this, he says, Donald Trump's a fascist. And I like looked at him and I see my wife looking out the window and I'm like, okay. And I just keep building it, not taking that bait. And then we have a cordial conversation. I go into the house and he looks at me, he goes, Elon Musk's a fascist. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm so good, guys. This is so good. I'm being so good, right? I'm being baited. And then finally, towards the end of the party, I'm sitting down outside by the pool, in the pool area, and I'm sitting there, a beautiful Californian day, and now John has had a couple drinks. And I have not. And I'm sitting there, and he comes over and he sits next to me. He says, Jesus was a fascist. And I was like, oh. Now, I want you to, okay, what question do you think I asked John at this point? What do you mean by fascist? And what do you think he said? Silent. No, this is what he did. He goes into his pocket, and he goes like this. I said, John. I said to him, John, Google can't save you. you use words have meaning. If you're going to say something and use a term to describe Trump, Musk, and Jesus, you better know, or you ought to know what that means. And he just sat there with fear in his eyes. Total silence. And then finally I was like, I let up and he's like, this is what I mean. I was like, no, I know what you mean because I know what a fascist is. But I don't think that you did. And I think that's a problem. Notice that when we ask these questions, what do you mean by that? Expect silence, because a lot of times people haven't spent the time thinking about what they mean. Yeah. A fascist is a person that wants to take government by force. It's like force, mainly. So people will say that like Donald Trump's a fascist. Yeah. And so next time somebody says that, what are you going to ask them? What do you mean by fascist? I mean, you could, right? The point is, guys, you don't even need, if you're in this room and you have no idea what a fascist is, you don't need to. Because I don't think the person that's using the term, and notice, I'm not the one using the term. They are. So simply ask them a question, and don't be surprised if you just get met with absolute silence. And so that's the first, do you guys see how, this is the first application. Do you guys see how easy this is? What's the first question?
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that? You guys should all get it, because it's right there. That's the first question. What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Ask it all day, every day. Ask it till it comes to home. Like go and I mean, don't when you guys, the students here, these two students, when you go home and your parents tell you to clean your room, don't be like, what do you mean my room? I thought it was yours. Like, bad. But I want you guys to notice something. Like, as we just simply ask this question, somebody's making a claim. All we're doing is asking them what they mean by what they're saying. You're giving the benefit of the doubt, assuming that the person actually knows what they mean. You're just asking more for them to tell you more about what they mean. So if you have any ambiguity, if there's any ambiguity in their statement, just ask the question. And notice you're engaging the person. Your family, who it seems like they're Roman Catholic, is that right? I mean, this is a great question to be asking them, especially Roman Catholics. Because Roman Catholics are so steeped in tradition. But oftentimes they do stuff and they don't know why. Ask them, why do you confess to a pope? Or a priest, rather. Like, why? You know, ask them these things. And because you don't have to give them a reason why you think that's unbiblical. You know, they're doing something, so ask them. You know, ask them about how they're living. Ask them, what do you mean by this or that? You know, and have them spell it out for you. You know, so first it immediately engages the person that you're talking to in an interactive way. Also, notice that you're actually showing genuine interest in the person's view. That's why it's important to understand that these aren't slick ruses, like I said before. The tactic's not meant to manipulate; it's meant to maneuver. I'm not trying to manipulate anybody. We're just trying to know what they mean by what they're saying.
Look like you mean it though.
Well, you should mean it because they're made in the image of God. Like I said at the onset, guys, in the other presentations, like if you're not interested in the person, don't have the conversation. That's okay. You don't have to have a conversation with every single person at every single time. But be interested. If you're going to engage, actually be interested, genuinely interested in the person because they're made in the image of God. Notice that also it forces that person to think critically about the words that they're using and what they mean by what they're saying. You know, which is important. You know, so it's actually a benefit when we ask these questions. When I was interacting with John, I wasn't trying to make him look like an idiot. That wasn't my point. My point was to make him think critically about the words that he's using. Yeah, exactly. Put a stone in his shoe. And notice, do I have any pressure if I'm asking this question? Is there any pressure on me at all? I don't need to know anything. There's no pressure on me. I'm in the driver's seat. I'm just asking a simple question. What do you mean by that? You know, like I said, don't ask your wife questions you don't want answers to. So that's the first question. The first question is, what do you mean by that? That's the first question. That's the first application. Gather information. Now, the second application of Columbo is now we're going to talk about reversing the burden of proof. So we're reversing the burden of proof. We're going to get reasons why somebody believes what it is that they believe. It reverses. Do you guys know what burden of proof is? So the burden of proof rests on the person making a claim. The person who makes the claim has the burden to prove that claim true. Basically, what you're doing is you're saying, show me the evidence. Again, this is the number one mistake I see Christians make. you get into a conversation, there's a claim made, and all of a sudden we assume the burden of proof on us to disprove what the other person's saying. Like atheist John. In hindsight, if I did this presentation first, every one of you should have simply just started asking me questions. You're an atheist. What do you mean, John, when you say atheist? Well, I don't believe in God. Oh, what do you mean by God, and what kind of God? Well, I don't believe in the biblical God. Oh, well, that's okay. Can you tell me why you don't believe in the biblical God? Can you give me any reasons as to why you believe this is? And so we're keeping the burden of proof on the person making the claims, because when I came here to you as atheist John, you weren't making any claims. I'm the one coming into this church making all the claims. And if we can get used to asking questions, putting the burden of proof where it belongs, the person making the claims. That's a second part of an argument, by the way. A claim and then evidence. Until you offer evidence, all you're doing is spinning a story. And we got to get out of the habit of answering every single story that's spun as Christians. So now you have the claim, now you're asking to back it up. And the question that we use is on the screen here is how did you come to that conclusion? How did you come to that conclusion is the second question. What's the first question?
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that? What's the second question? Oh, you guys are getting weaker. I'm so sorry. What's the first question?
What do you mean by that?
What's the second question?
How'd you come to that conclusion?
Yes, I love this. How did you come to that conclusion? Absolutely. So how did you come to that conclusion? You could say, why do you say that? It doesn't have to always be, what do you mean by that, or how did you come to that conclusion? Give me reasons why you believe that. Why did you say that? What's led you to think that way? These are all different ways that we can rephrase the question. Let's look at some examples. Okay, so these are my three guys. This is a claim. Okay, we live in a universe is just one of many universes. We live in a multiverse. God didn't create it. What's a question you could ask?
What do you mean by multiverse?
Yes. Oh my gosh. What do you mean by multiverse? So that's the first question. What do you mean by multiverse? What's the second question that we could ask them? Everybody always jumps back to the first one because we hammer it so much. Yeah. Yeah. Can you give me some evidence for the multiverse? What do you think the response is going to be?
I listened to this TikTok.
Yeah, I saw this awesome video by this really cool guy on TikTok. Okay, that's not evidence. The reason why they can't give you evidence is because how much evidence do we have for a multiverse? Zero. Yeah, absolutely. No, so you just ask the question. Well, you're not making the claim. Show me evidence. Why have you come to believe that there's a multiverse? You could ask the question, how does a multiverse contradict the idea that God exists? Where's the contradiction there? Just interested. You don't need, all you're doing is asking them a question. How about this one? This is my favorite one. The Bible's full of contradictions. What's a question you could ask? I have it. This is my poor Bible. It's falling apart, which means good things for my life, right? Isn't that what they say? If your Bible's falling apart, usually your life's not. No, it's already duct taped. Duct tape ain't gonna fix this sucker. My Christmas present this year is gonna be this rebound. But the problem is it takes 2 months, and I can't travel without my Bible. But I take December off from traveling. So anyways, okay, back to the story at hand here. Okay, the Bible's full of contradictions. What's the question that you're gonna ask? That's the first question. Okay, well, I mean, there's a lot of internal errors that can't be rectified consistently within the Bible. So I know what a contradiction is, and I know what I'm saying. So now what's the next question? Thank you. How'd you come to that conclusion? So you could ask that, or if somebody says to me, can you, if somebody says, I can't believe in the Bible because of all the contradictions, this is what I do. I usually have my Bible on me, and I go like this. Can you show me one? And what do you think they do? Hold on, let me Google. No, put your phone away. You made the claim, I want you to back it up. Can you show me a contradiction in this Bible? Why can't they show you a contradiction in the Bible? Because there aren't any. There just aren't any. You know, so next time somebody says this to you, just say, oh, show me one. Just one. That's all I need. And they can't because there aren't any. That is the second kind of application. How'd you come to that conclusion type moment where you just say, prove it. All you're saying is show me the evidence. You've made the claim. You clearly understand what you're saying. Now show me the evidence as to why you believe that. How about this one? All religions are basically the same. Yes, the multiple parts of the elephant. What's a question that you could ask?
What do you mean?
You guys are so caught up on the first one. What's the second Columbo question?
How'd you come to that conclusion?
What's the second Columbo question?
How'd you come to that conclusion?
How did you come to that conclusion? You could say, oh yeah, like, okay, so what makes you think that all religions are the same? What's that? Yeah, you could say that. You could say, which ones? All religion? Like all religions? Do you have specific ones in mind? Yeah, like all religions? What do you mean by all? So are you saying, so does, like every world religious system you think believes the same thing? Do you really believe that? Well, clearly not. I mean, then if you know anything, I mean, this you don't have to lead with this, but if just I would point out the major monotheistic religions, right? So you have Christianity, you have Judaism, you have Islam. They all teach on the person of Jesus, but who do they say Jesus is, right? So on Judaism, who do the Jews say Jesus is? A false prophet. That's why he died on a cross. Did he die on a cross on Judaism? Was he raised again? Islam, what's Islam teach about Jesus? Do you guys know? A major prophet, maybe the greatest prophet. Second greatest. Did Jesus, according to Islam, did he die on a cross? No, it wasn't Jesus up there. Okay, so that means he wasn't resurrected. What do Christians say about Jesus? Who's Jesus on Christianity? He is God incarnate, the Son of God, come to live among us, to forgive us of our faults. Did he die on a cross? Was he raised again? So all three of these things, they can't be true at the same time. I mean, they could all be false, but they can't all be true. So this claim here that all religions are true is demonstrably false. But we don't need to prove that. Ask the question, how'd you come to that conclusion? Yeah.
And that's not even getting into Ganesh, the
Yeah.
the
Uh-huh.
goddess of mercy, Erlang,
Woo.
Ares, the god of war, Mars, the god of war.
Yeah. So, but this is what I mean, is that you could ask that question. Okay, so all religions are the same. How exactly is the religion of Ares the same as the religion of Christianity? And let them, and here's the other thing, guys, when you ask this question, guess what kind of response you can expect to get? Simon and Garfunkel. Crickets. Complete silence. Because even more than with the first one, how'd you come to that conclusion? When you ask for evidence, most people have not thought through their worldview. That's true of Christians, by the way, too. Not just non-Christians. Most people haven't thought through their worldview. Yes, well, that's one of the reasons, absolutely. One of the reasons why you're here. Okay. Do I want to do this? What's the first question? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What's the second question? How'd you come to that conclusion? You're asking somebody to clarify. You're going on a fact-finding mission with the first one. Clarify the claim. The second one, show me the evidence. Show me the proof. Why should I believe that? You could ask them that. Why should I believe that? Boom. Those are the two. Now, there's a thing called the professor's ploy. And, okay. So the professor's ploy, this is something to be aware of. Especially if you're in a situation where somebody is trying to reverse the burden of proof on you, and usually it happens in the context of like a classroom or where somebody has like a position of authority, they're teaching, and you're not like the leader of this thing, or maybe your boss says something or something like this. And I have a good example of this. Like, okay, so when I was in Germany teaching, I was at part of the time I was at an English learning camp. It was like a summer camp that was English learning, but it was Christian, so I was teaching apologetics and preaching at night while the students were learning English in Germany during the day. And it was a fantastic place. And they brought in American students to teach the English, and I made friends with all these American students. Most of them were college students. And I made really good friends with this one, Gina, and she was fantastic. She was a great kid. And we became friends, and then we got back. We're both from Southern California, and she was at UC Pomona. Oh, no. She was somewhere in Pomona at college, and she was a philosophy psychology major. And it was her start of her second year when we got back, and she emailed me and she said, hey, can we have a conversation? I said, sure. We talked on the phone. She said, hey, I had my first class in Psychology 201, and she went on to explain the situation in the first class. This is like straight out of a movie. This is true. On her first day, in front of a lecture hall, more than 100 kids in this class, the professor comes in, he introduces himself, and he says, hey, could I please see, if you're a Christian, could you please raise your hand? And so Gina and maybe a dozen or so other kids out of the 100 raised their hand. And he literally said this. He said, my goal at the end of the semester is if I ask Christians to raise their hand, none of you raise your hand. And then he went on to assign readings like Richard Dawkins' Virus of the Mind. Terrible, terrible text to have in a psychology and philosophy program. He's a bad philosopher, good biologist, I disagree, but terrible philosopher. And Virus of the Mind is awful. And he went on in the semester to, at every turn he could, try to poke holes in the Christian worldview. And Gina and I worked together, and she was nervous because she had to write papers and be graded. I mean, the success in this class. And at one point and this is the professor's ploy. At one point in the class, he started talking about the New Testament and how it's not reliable. And Gina, I had taught tactics to, and so she was really great, like a good student of mine. Like, she raises her hand and she asks the first question, which is, what do you mean that the New Testament is unreliable? And he was able to explain that to her. And then she asked the second question, which is, that's right, how have you come to, and she raised her hand again. She said, hey, Prof, can you show me the evidence as to why you think there's all these contradictions in the New Testament making it unreliable historically? And then his response to her was this. He says, Gina, it's clear to me that you're one of these Christians that thinks the Bible is the very word of God. How about you come up here and teach the students as to why we should trust the Bible? Notice what's happened. He turned the burden of proof. Gina is not making the claim. He is. And this is Gina's response. I was so proud of her. Gina said, that's a great idea, but Prof, I'm not making any claims here. You don't know my position. You're making the claim. You're clearly versed and smart in this area. Could you please show us why we should believe what you believe? And she stood her ground in that way, and then just dropped it, because person with the microphone always wins. Person in position of power always wins. And then he moved on. And actually, she ended up doing really, really well in that class. She ended up meeting with him privately. I mean, didn't lead him to the Lord or anything like that, but did really, really well in that class because she was using her tactics in order to stay calm in a conversation that, I mean, very easily, I mean, think about that position. Put yourself back at like 19 or 20, being willing to stand up for Christ and keep cool, calm, and collective under that type of situation. I'm so proud of her. But it's just because she learned two tactics, two questions. What do you mean by that? How'd you come to that conclusion? Don't let somebody reverse the burden of proof on you. When they see the person making the claim has the burden to prove the claim. Don't fall into that. Now, let's just like think about as we start to close here. Look at what we've accomplished. Just these two questions, right? What do you mean by that? How'd you come to that conclusion? We have accomplished a ton. We're engaging conversationally with somebody. The questions, they're probing, but they're polite, they're cordial. We're not offending anybody. We're not getting into a fight. We're just asking somebody what they mean by what they're saying and why they're saying it. They're asking for evidence. So over the next couple weeks, I just encourage you guys to be asking that question. Now, with the last 3 or 4 minutes, what happens if you ask these questions? Somebody makes a claim and you say, hey, what do you mean by that? They know what they mean by that. And then what happens if you ask them to give you evidence and they can actually give you evidence? Okay, I think that there's a way out of this situation without looking stupid or anything. And it's super simple, guys. It's called being honest. All we want to do is be honest. When we don't know something, just say that. I don't know that. I have a good example of this. When we find ourselves in a situation which I call the hot seat, where all of a sudden we realize that we might be out of our league in a conversation, it's super simple. All we do is to step back from the conversation and ask, if you can just have some time to think about it. And I have a great example of this. What do I mean? What do I mean by this, John? See, Columbo. Okay, I was in Boston. This is a lifetime ago, it feels like. I don't even know if I had kids yet. Maybe I had 1 or 2 kids. and we were at my sister's apartment in Boston, and I was talking to my sister, and she had her best friend, Caitlin, and her future actually husband, Colin, were over. And I'm sitting there talking to them about Jesus, of course, and we're talking about the Kalam cosmological argument, actually, where'd all the stuff come from? And we're talking, and I'm like, guys, I'm winning. Have you guys like ever felt like just a spirit on you and you're having a conversation, it's just like going, they're asking the right questions, I'm having the right answers, and I'm crushing them in this conversation. I'm like waiting for them to repent and confess Jesus. I'm waiting for the harvest. And I'm sitting there, and then I'm answering all their questions, I'm smashing the science, I'm smashing the theology. I'm like, yo, this is amazing. And then my sister says to me, hey, John, you know a lot about this, and I have somebody who's really interested in these types of things. Can I invite him over for the conversation? I said, yeah, absolutely. Bring your other friend over so I can smash him too. I can't wait. And so she makes a phone call, and then a couple minutes later, her friend comes to the door who lives next door, and his name's Louis, and Louis sits down. Well, what my sister didn't tell me is that Louis is a PhD from MIT in molecular biology. Uh-oh. I'm like way out of my league almost immediately in the conversation. And I start saying stuff, and Louis has a lot more to say about what I'm saying than I do. And all of a sudden, I'm like way out of my league. I'm over my head. And instead of getting defensive, instead of making things up, this is what I said. I started talking about the existence of the universe, the beginning of the universe, first life, and things like this. And Louis knew a lot. I was talking about evolution and all this. I was out of my league. So I said this. I said, hey, Louis, you clearly know, so I'm just going to be honest. Louis, you clearly know more about this than I do. And I appreciate that. I was wondering, could you keep beating me up, but when you beat me up, can you do it slowly and methodically? Can I go get a piece of paper and a pen and take notes and then get back to you? And what do you think Louis said? Sure. Absolutely, I can't wait to smash another Christian. This is great. So I went and got a piece of paper, I sat down, I said to Louis, hey, you know a lot. I'm gonna take notes, I'm gonna get back to you. I sat for the next 45 minutes listening to what Louis had to say, took some notes, and then make sure if you say get back to you, you get back to him. Notice what's happened. One, I didn't look like an idiot. I don't think that's an idiot move. Two, I got a free education that night. I learned an awful lot about something I didn't know that much about. Notice also now, I also made a friend. A connection. Every time Louis mentioned something that I didn't know, what's the question that I asked him? Yeah, every time he made a claim that he knew what he meant, what's the second question I probably asked him? How'd you come to that conclusion? And when he gave me reasons why he believes what he believes, he could say what he believes, what he believes. I just noted it down, jotted it down, went back, did my research, and then I got back to him. I have a friend. Now, every time I want to know anything about evolution, do you think I go and like read a textbook? I call Louis. Louis, my buddy. Buddy Louis. You know, and you don't have to look at like an idiot. All you're doing is being truthful. That's it. If you don't know something, or if you're in over your head, just say, whoa. You clearly know what you're talking about. I don't know as much about this as you. Can we just have a conversation? Can I ask questions? Can I write some notes? And can I get back to you? Do you guys think you can do that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, super simple. It's easy. It's easy. And you notice you're buying yourself plenty of time. There's no pressure. You get back to them on your own leisure. You're getting that free education, and you're making a friend. And that's what it's about. It's just about being honest and having real conversations with people. And notice what's happened also when I say, hey, just take your time. I'm going to take notes. I'm still in the driver's seat. I'm still controlling the conversation. Anytime I want the conversation to end, I can end it because I'm not the one stuck in the middle of making claims, having to offer evidence. Well, because I'm genuinely asking him. That's right. He feels like I genuinely want to know. And he's actually teaching me. I'm not being slick in that. I'm just being truthful in it, you know? So this is the key to getting out of the hot seat while still remaining engaged in the conversation, staying in control, is you just simply are honest, step back from the conversation, take some notes, and get a free education. Make a friend. And you'll learn a lot in the process. Yeah, this is probably 12 years ago now, and we're still in connection. Yeah, not as much now as I wish. He's always on my mind. Actually, I'm always thinking like, oh man, I should just give him a call out of the blue. But it's funny, like in that time, he is actually now a tenured professor at University of Tennessee. Like he's super smart, like really, and he's a good guy. He has like one or two kids now and a wife, and so things get away from us. You know, we start having these children. It's less free time, you know. But no, really good guy. Still in connection with him. You know, and it all came from just being honest, not feeling like I needed to know things or say things I didn't know. And and just said, hey, it sounds like you know a lot more about this than I do. Teach me. Let me take some notes. Beat me up, man. I'm open to that. Just do it slowly, methodically. Don't leave any dot undotted or any I undotted, any T uncrossed, and then let me think about it. And then I was still in the driver's seat, which is key. And if I wanted to end the conversation, which eventually the conversation had to end, you just say, you know what, this is enough for me to think about right now. Thanks. And everybody leaves happy. It's fantastic. It's not complicated. Okay, so, all right, I'm 10 minutes over. What's the first question? What's the second question? How'd you come to that conclusion? What did you mean by that? How'd you come to that conclusion? And with that, guys, you have a game plan. Super simple. Do you guys think this is simple? I told you guys you think it's simple. How many people don't think it's going to work? Be honest. Oh, you guys actually believe me? Silly people. No, it does. It really does work. I'll tell you what. I started doing this, and it's incredible. I just spent. I went to Washington D.C. a couple months ago. We're about to release the film footage. I don't know where, but STR does all that. But I went to the Women's March, the latest Women's March, the Hands Off March. 20,000 people on the National Mall, all holding signs. And it was the best. It was so much fun. Because a sign, one guy says on it, I should have put this in my presentation. It'll be way better than the AI stuff. Jesus is woke was the guy's sign. What's the question I asked? What do you mean by woke? And he actually knew what he meant by it. And then what's the question I asked? Yeah, can you show me from your understanding of the Bible how you've come to the conclusion that Jesus was that? And then crickets. Why? Because he's never read the Bible. He doesn't know anything about Jesus outside of pop culture. Like Kanye West is his education on Jesus. It's like, oh gosh, let's get you some help. But all of these people, I mean, there's so many signs, and the way that I engaged these people was just by asking questions. And it was really funny because there was never a confrontation. There was never a time where somebody thought I was being combative, because I had the simple game plan, which is exactly what I gave to you. So now I encourage you guys, over the next couple of weeks, when you're talking to family that you disagree with, or you're talking to people that have a different worldview than you, when you're talking to whoever, even people that you agree with, it's a great way to sharpen your skills. Ask them, what do you mean by that? How'd you come to that conclusion? You guys can do this, I think, right? Awesome. Thank you guys so much for that. We have a break. Oh, wait, Q&A.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So, do we have any questions? Any questions at all? Yeah, let's do it, because we can do 20 minutes of Q&A.
Well, I just
You guys are doing so good, but sorry to interrupt you, but you guys are doing so good. I'm having a lot of fun up here, and I feel really bad for you because you're having to listen to me for 6 hours a day. You guys are incredible. You guys are amazing. Well, because you have to listen to me. It's but you guys are attentive and awake. I mean, it's unbelievable. Oh, well, you guys are awesome. So I'm just really, really appreciative of you guys right now. Thank you, guys. We're finishing strong. I'm going to go here, and then I'll go here. How about that?
yes, please. So I haven't learned any closers before, but I did ask what you mean by that question to someone. And it was somewhere that why do you believe that God exists? And how do you combat a response that just, I don't see a point?
Yeah, so that's great. So the question she's asked, though, what do you mean by that before, just without even knowing this, because I think we all have in certain instances, we ask people questions, which is really great. And the response was kind of I just don't see a point in God's existence. Again, I would ask, it's another opportunity for you to ask another clarifying question. Why don't, you don't see any point? Why don't you see any point in this? If God exists, I would ask this question, if God truly does exist, just for the moment, for the sake of argument, assume God exists, do you think it matters? And ask them that. And then because then we'd say, well, or you could ask the question, well, what perceptions about God are you operating on? You know what I mean? Because if somebody has a faulty understanding of who God is, if God, for example, you mentioned all these myth gods, right? So if people think that the God that we're talking about is just one in the pantheon of other gods, that's a misconception, right? Because our God has very little to do with those gods. So I can see why they dismiss them. It's like the atheist experiment when I started. I said, hey, we're very similar together. You guys all are atheists when it comes to every other God. I'm just an atheist with one more God. It kind of dismisses your view. It doesn't take your view seriously. because I don't think that they have an understanding of what you mean by God. Or you could ask a question. I try to go deeper and ask the question, oh, that's interesting. Like, what do you think happens when you die? And I'd ask them that question and hear what they have to say. Because then what we believe about God starts to matter. Does that make sense? Yeah. I usually start with, oh yeah, stupid face. No, I don't. She's saying ask a respectful question. Yeah. Does that help? Yeah, sure. I don't think it's that. This is the thing about questions, guys. It's not just, I mean, delivered in a polite manner. You don't want to start with, hey, stupid face. Or, hey, let me teach you something through my amazing questioning. Like, but if you're asking questions in a humble manner, I think actually you gain respect from people. But genuinely be interested. I'm going to do this one and then I'll come back to you. Is that okay? I have a draw to the students. Why? You should ask him. He said, my brother believes in reincarnation. And every time, well, did you hear that, guys? That was incredible. He said, because he said, my brother, he says, this is so funny. I can't wait. I'm definitely going to use this in my presentations. He says, my brother believes in reincarnation. I said, you should ask him why. He says, every time I do, he pinches me on the back of the neck and throws me. He's 15 and you're only 13, but you're working out in the yard and stuff. You're going to be stronger than him soon. Yeah, you already are. So no, but we never want to get, if we're getting into a physical confrontation with somebody, we're not operating under what I'm teaching. But no, but it's generally like, seriously, if he says something, you makes this claim, I believe in reincarnation, this is a great opportunity for you to ask him, oh, I know, hey, don't hurt me, but why do you believe that? You know, can you show me some evidence? Ask him what he means by reincarnation. If he's 15, he might not even really know. Like, a lot of people don't understand what reincarnation is a terrible, terrible thing. It usually comes out of like an Eastern religion or where it assumes a caste system where you can never get a higher state of being. Like, you're just stuck. It's like, have you guys seen the Bill Murray Groundhog Day? I mean, at first it seems fantastic. He learns the piano, he learns how to court this woman, but in the end, it's just a horrible existence. The same thing over and over and over again. Yuck. All right. Yeah.
Well, so the conversations that you were talking about having, starting like with random homeless people, and you're like, let's go to this home. And for an example, for some of the youth in this room, how would you start a conversation that leads to some of these tactics that you're using?
Yeah. So the question is like, how do I start random conversations with people? I want to stress this, guys, that not everybody's built like me, and you're not less of a Christian. You don't love Jesus less because you're not like me. I'm weird. Like, my kids know I'm weird, and they tell me all the time. So this is what I used to do this. If you guys want to have a really interesting day, try this. Go to your local coffee shop. I don't know if it's Starbucks or whatever. I can't stand Starbucks, but you can go there. Or to go to a local coffee shop and sit down and print out a sign that says, please join me. And just put it on the table and see what happens. I used to have a sign, please join me, and anybody who came by and asked me what that sign was, I'd say, hey, I would love to buy you a cup of coffee and just talk to you about things that matter to me. And it's crazy. I mean, not everybody's going to bite at that, but you'll get into at least 3 or 4 really great conversations with people. And I'll just listen to them, like what Schaefer says. I'll just ask them questions about what they think they're sitting down to listen to me. I'm actually listening to them. And then I'm going to ask them questions, and you're going to meet really cool people. You're going to meet really weird people too. Or when I go to Santa Monica Pier, usually it's for a work project. Oftentimes it's for a work project. So I'll go down with, I'll ask them a question. Do you believe in truth? Or what is truth? And I start there and see what they say. And then I'm asking questions to guide the conversation. And then ultimately I'm trying to get to objective truth. And then usually I go moral. And then because most people want to deny the existence of objective morality while also living in a world that's objective, that has objective morality. One time, this is really fun. This is so much fun. On an iPad, I had pictures of famous people, like who'd I have? I had Martin Luther King Jr. I had Walt Disney. I had Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood. I had one or two others, and then I had a picture of Jesus. And I would just ask people, say, do you recognize these people? Do you recognize me? And most people couldn't recognize most of them, you know, even like Walt Disney, you know, but everybody recognized Jesus. So I'd ask them, well, who do you think Jesus is? And listen to what they have to say, and just get into a conversation, hoping to get ultimate. That one I was actually trying to go towards the gospel with intentional. And I have actually, well, that was just in a documentary, actually. I don't know where Stand to Reason puts this up. I'm really bad with online stuff, guys. Like, I don't do social media and stuff, so I don't, like you guys ask, can I post this stuff online? I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I have no idea where it's going to end up. So it's like, I think Stand to Reason has that on the website. We used it in a documentary about who Jesus is, which was really interesting, you know, to talk to people about their thoughts. Yeah, so oftentimes it's just like, I'm just asking people what they believe and why they believe it. Literally it's these two questions. It's like straight up, like if you wanted to go down, or what age group do you guys participate with? Is it middle school through high school?
8th grade to 12th.
Okay, so mostly high school kids. This is great. He was giving you a look, no?
Well, we're combined with preteens right now, but not for this coming school year.
Okay.
So it's separated again.
Well, older kids, so this is like what older kids is a great thing to do is I would go down to a local, do you guys have a community college around here or anything? Yeah. So I would go down to the local community college and I would just set it, especially if it's public, because that means it's yours and less likely to get kicked off of. And I'd bring a whiteboard and I would put something, I'd put a statement, a moral statement, and then a line down the middle, yes and no, and I'd just have people check off where they think. So like, abortion is immoral, yes or no? And then centered around that, you could just ask the people the questions that we just went over. Hey, you just checked yes that you think abortion is immoral. Why do you think that? Or no, why do you think abortion's moral? And just you get into great conversations with people. It doesn't need to be something as heavy as abortion. I mean, I just off the top of my mind, the extremes always come to mind. See, this is my problem, is I just want to go like, let's talk about the most controversial topics that we can.
What is some of those controversial topics like abortion and homosexuality? Like those are some of the things that are dividing.
Well, that's why I think that we should be talking about them, you know. It's also, from a Christian perspective, like I said at the end of my last talk, like I believe what I believe because it's true. And because it's true, especially for you guys, the younger people, like don't ever shy away from digging in. There is no question off limits. And that means adults, you guys in the room, that if you have kids or students or whatever, you should encourage these people, like the young people, to be asking you questions. And even if you don't know the answer, just tell them, like, I don't know the answer, and then find the answer. You know, so like we should be digging into the hard topics because the culture's coming at us. And the thing is I think that we're at a point in the culture where the culture at large doesn't like the answers that are being given to them, and they know that they're false. They're just not giving the true answer, and that's where the church needs to rise up because we have the true answers.
It's like, as we're
No, you're good. No.
I was just saying, as like we're discussing more and more of these topics, like people's acceptance of our answers have changed over time.
Yes.
Like back in whatever years, I don't know, like you could say something and somebody would respect that answer and agree to that answer. But now I find that when we're having conversations, it's just the acceptance of the answer is almost never happening.
Yeah, I think the culture has become steeped in relativism, which is we're going to talk about next, which make things a little bit more. No, don't say sorry. It's going to makes things a little bit more challenging because when we make claims about morality and religion, what the people out there want to do is they want to put that in the subjective category. They put it in the camp of like, oh, this is how I feel. And we're going to talk about that in the next talk, and I think that makes it challenging. But once we learn how to converse and point out and just kind of be direct, well, I don't think, I say to people all the time, like, I don't think that actually takes my view seriously. Like when you when you relativize my statement. When I say abortion is wrong, I don't say I think it's wrong. I say abortion is wrong. I mean, I think abortion is wrong for all people in all places at all times. Why? Well, because I think human beings are unique and valuable, independence of size, level of development, environment, or degree of dependency. I don't think you have to earn your value. Humanness isn't earned. I think it's prescribed. Why do you think it's acceptable to kill an innocent human being? That's how usually the conversation goes with me. Now, not everybody's going to do that because it's hard, but that's how it goes. I go out to if you guys have abortion facilities, I know this is Florida and you guys like close to heaven, but if you guys have sin in this state, which I think you do, if you guys do have any Planned Parenthoods or abortion facilities, I would highly recommend going out and trying to talk to people, and with no agenda, asking questions, getting a little bit of pro-life training, which you can find online, or at Stand to Reason, we have tons of stuff. We have an online Stand to Reason, it's STRU, and it's a video course, it's free. STRU, there's one that's Making Abortion Unthinkable, and it'll train you on how to converse on abortion, and then you can actually go out onto the street and try it. Now, super intimidating. Just so you know, I actually said this to my church. I'm a pastor, founding pastor of my church. I planted this church six years ago. I'm supposed to be like the guy, right? And I said, hey guys, you guys have been asking questions about abortion. I'd like to have a small group at my house centered on this video curriculum. You don't have to bring anything to the table. I'll feed you, come on over. And then afterwards, and this is where I lost my people, afterwards we'll go to a Planned Parenthood and I'll show you how it's done. You know how many people showed up? None. So don't be discouraged. It's hard. It's hard. But I think once you get out there, and asking these questions, it doesn't have to be about abortion, by the way. Like, these are extremes. Like, this is me. But when you get out there, you're going to notice a few things. Through these questions and doing these tactics, you're going to realize that the people that you're kind of nervous about, they actually don't know as much as you think they do. In fact, just the fact that you guys are here, I think you probably know more than most. Just the very fact that you're interested in this stuff. Most people don't know what they believe. A lot of people don't know what they believe. Most people don't know why they believe it. And that's why these two questions are so effective. And when somebody's put in that position, and be comfortable with silence. When you're talking to somebody, I love sitting in the silence. It's so awkward, and people like squirm, and I don't, because I'm not the one making the claims. If you're going to say something, you better know what you're saying and why. Yeah. I know it's nerve-wracking. You do it once, and it's so, and anyway, I have a ball with it. But no, it's not for everybody.
He's like, look at me, like, I'm the one that loves confrontation. My love that has
Yeah.
So we're like,
Good luck, homie. Good luck. Oh, that's like my kids. So I have a T-shirt. I have it with me. And on it, this T-shirt's so sick. So I have two. They kind of match. One is it has a little like a bear on it, and the bear is wearing a Jesus Save shirt. And on the back it says, what's it say? Bear Witness. And it's just so rad. And then the shirt that the bear is wearing that says Jesus Saves, I also have that exact shirt. And it's like the old Run DMC logo, which I don't know if you guys know. It's like the two red lines with the white letters, and it just says Jesus Saves. And my wife hates it when I wear that shirt. And it's not because she hates Jesus. She just knows what's going to happen. Like I go out to like a goodbye party at like the local brewery or whatever to hang out with my buddies and say goodbye to them, and she just knows. The entire night is going to be me talking about Jesus to people that I don't even know. And she's like, oh gosh, can't we just have a date night? No. Woman? No. I don't say that ever to her. I wouldn't be standing here without her. So, but yeah, it's reversed in our house, but I get it. But yeah, it's something you work up towards. And I'm telling you, as you practice it, you get more confident in it. And it doesn't always have to, guys, most of us here, it goes back to the beginning. Most of us aren't made that way. All we're called to do is just do a little bit of gardening. Plant some seeds, water them the best you can. Yeah, thank you for your patience.
Your buddy from MIT with a PhD, believed in evolution.
Yeah.
Did he give you a good argument for where the cell came from, other than time for the chance
Yeah, so no, actually, what he says is that he kind of refuses to, as best I remember, and I could be wrong because I haven't talked to him in a while on this, so I hope I'm representing him right, is he has told me before he does not speak on biogenesis. So he's not going to do first life. Study of first life is not his thing. He starts at first life and then forward. And so I'm not going to press him on that because, like, whatever. There's no point in me arguing over it with him. But his arguments that he has given for evolution obviously have not been convincing. It seems like a lot of inference and speculation, extrapolation. So we see this on the small scale, therefore big scale, and that I don't buy for good reasons. And I've gone to him about fossil records. I think the fossil record doesn't support his position. If you've read, you're like an apologetics guy, huh? Were you the one that quoted Ravi earlier? Yeah. So okay. So have you read like Darwin's Black Box? Or if you haven't read, you have to. It's Michael Behe. Darwin's Doubt by Stephen Meyer. Oh my gosh, if you're an apologetics guy, you have to read Stephen Meyer. All of you, I can highly recommend Stephen Meyer for science stuff. He runs the Discovery Institute out of Seattle. And I love his website handle. It's evolutionnews.com, which is so great. And he's actually done a great job of showing how evolution is actually a theory in crisis right now. His most recent book is fantastic, and it's the Return of the God Hypothesis. Now what we see is actually people in the hard sciences taking the God hypothesis seriously, which is kind of neat because we're coming off of this new atheist kind of Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, Christopher Hitchens. These guys are now almost obsolete, and it's really cool to see what's happening. Darwin's Black Box. It really started kind of the intelligent design revolution. That's Michael Behe, I think. Darwin's Delusion. And in Darwin's Delusion, he talks a lot about the fossil record, and it's super cool. Yeah. Biogenesis. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, yeah. Turk's really funny. I love Turk because he's like me. He's just bold and like, he's like a New Jersey guy, so he can't help himself. He's great. If you, Turk, Stealing from God's another great book for book recommendations. Go to Turk. Turk's 2 books are fantastic. J. Warner Wallace is also one that I didn't mention. If you guys want like fun stuff, do you guys know who J. Warner Wallace is? He's a cold case homicide detective, retired now, out of Torrance. He's been featured on 2020 like 6 times. I'm not exaggerating this, I'm friends with him, I know him personally. Every case that he brought to trial, he won. And he's a cold case homicide detective, so he's a guy who goes and investigates cold case, like homicides that happened 30 years ago and solves them. And they've claimed that he's like the evidence whisperer, which is weird, but that's what they say. And he's written Cold Case Christianity and a couple other books. And his stuff is phenomenal. And like that, it's very approachable too. So we talked about some heavy books like Lewis and these guys, but Wallace and Turk are very approachable in their writing style, and they're great. They're fantastic. Was there another question? J. Warner Wallace. Yeah, he's awesome. He's so good. He's a good guy too, kind of, for a cop. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not in LA anymore. I can make those jokes in LA and they get that. But out here, you're like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Anything else, guys? Any question at all? My favorite cover is blue. I love blue. Anything blue. I'm trying to find a new hobby. Can I confess? I'm going to confess some sin to you guys. I know I'm already forgiven because as far as the east is from the west, so far has God removed my transgressions from me, right? If you, O Lord, were to mark iniquities, O Lord, who could stand? But there's forgiveness. So I'm forgiven. I was trying to make friends and find a hobby because I travel a lot and I don't have a ton of friends. Like, guys, we have trouble. I just don't do it. I don't hunt. I don't do any of that. So a bunch of my friends at church, they play Dungeons and Dragons. It's not nearly as fun as I thought it was going to be. And also, they didn't tell me each time we meet, it takes 4 hours. And I can't watch football. I don't get football. I know. I don't get it. I don't get the sport. I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense to me. It looks incredibly easy. Yeah. I like baseball. My sport's soccer. So. Do I like pancakes? I like pancakes. Why? Just lost all credibility. I go back to my hotel, the room's canceled. Did you have a question?
Yes. This is completely, sorry for stepping, but like, so we're not in postmodernism, but like, we're not gonna call it postmodernism.
Why not?
Like, is
Philosophers would, yeah.
Are we calling it postmodernism?
Yeah, there's definitely a line of thought. Yeah, there's a philosophical like line that says postmodernism, sure. Yeah, that's kind of like, you could use that. But yeah, but I think postmodernism thought has led to relativism. So I usually use that. I usually don't use any of those terms because nobody knows what they mean. So normally I'm just like relativist, or I say you do you. It's a you do you world, and yeah. So that's what I'd say. Postmodernism is definitely one. You would be totally respected if you in philosophical circles said postmodernism. Yeah, some people claim that that's it. Yeah, it's like the next evolution. Yeah. Hi. He does a great job. Ray Comfort, the question was like, what do I think about Ray Comfort's tactics? I think if you're trying to get to the gospel, man, he's very effective. His ministry is Living Waters, is that right? And I think that it's super straightforward, easy to remember. He's basic. If you guys don't know who Ray Comfort is, he's a street evangelist. He experiences a ton of success. He also has an incredible accent. It's like, is he Australian or South African or something? It's just like, he just sounds amazing. And so it's not fair. But those of us who don't have as cool of an accent, he'll just go and he'll start talking to people about God, and he'll ask questions like, have you ever stolen? Yes. Have you ever, lusted? Yes. Have you ever, he just goes down the line. Jesus says that if you've ever harbored hate in your heart for anybody, you've committed murder already. So that means you're a stealing thief, like a thieving, adulterous murderer. And he's like, what? And the person's standing there like weeping. How do I get out of this predicament? And he's like, Jesus, But again, that's not all of us, because I've definitely gone out and tried to do that, and it doesn't work as well for me. Also, keep in mind, and I say this because you guys can watch my stuff when it comes. I'm launching a series called Noyes on the Street, where I'm going to show you my tactics and use teaching moments of me out in the public. It's not long. I don't know when it's coming out. Like I said, I have no idea. I filmed the content and had a good time and call it a day. And it should be coming out soon, the next couple months. Keep in mind when you're watching this, guys, for every 2 minutes of success, there's an awful lot of footage that ends on the cutting room floor. So sometimes I feel like we get the perception. I'm just being honest with you. I don't know if any of these other guys would say this. I'm just being honest. Oftentimes we get the perception that we should all be like Charlie Kirk or Ray Comfort or these guys. Well, you're not seeing an awful lot that's happening in the context of those conversations. Ben Shapiro, they answer a lot of stuff right, but if you go to their events, not everything's super smooth. And also notice that the content is usually 2.5 minutes or less. So I think the point is that we're just out there doing it. To the best of our ability and trusting God with the salvation of people. We're just here to be his ambassadors. We're doing a little bit of gardening, just trying to talk to people about things that are important, putting a stone in their shoe. Yeah. You feel bad. Nobody else is raising their hand. And anybody who has a question, I'm just throwing it out there, guys. If you have a question, there's more than one person that's wondering this question.
Once we've gotten past these vague questions of we've asked sorry, my brain is tired. What do you mean by that? How did you come to these conclusions? Well, once we've gotten past those and we're starting to get into the nitty-gritty things, have you come across people that are now they're using the gospel? For instance, have you heard of Snap Fine's kid?
Matt who?
Vines. He is,
Oh, Matthew Vines.
yes,
I know. I hosted the debate between Matthew Vines and Sean McDowell at my church.
yeah. Is there a video of that?
Yeah, it's online. I mean, it's like yeah. It was incredible. Like, watch that video. Sean. Do you guys know who Sean McDowell is? Read anything by Sean too. Sean's great. Sean McDowell is a great Christian apologist. He contacted me at my church and asked if I'd host this debate because 3 times churches agreed to host it and then backed out because of Matthew Vines' platform. Matthew Vines is a gay affirming. He says he's a Christian, but thinks that the homosexuality is part of God's design, right? So he's a gay affirming Christian. Yeah, he's an interesting man.
Not argue, but how do you have a conversation with somebody who is, it's like, no, you have the wrong interpretation of Scripture.
Yeah, I'd say, no, I'm not. It's not about this is what I say to that. I'd say it's not about my interpretation. It's not about your interpretation. It's about the author's intent. So I go by what authorial intent are. When we do the job of interpreting, all that means is coming to the original meaning. When we interpret anything, we want to know, when I'm reading Paul, what did Paul mean to say here? And so when Matthew Vines is trying to twist these scriptures, like I would, if I'm talking to him, which I have, I'm going to hold his feet to the fire and say, no. That's not, the word homosexuality wasn't even in the Bible. Yeah, but that doesn't mean what Paul is talking about here was reinvented. Absolutely. Let's go, because Paul, when he, arsenokoitai, when he introduced, we don't need to get into this, but when he introduced arsenokoitai, he like invented that word. You know, but it's not about what I think Paul means. It's about what did Paul mean by doing that, and it's a very specific meaning. It is man laying with man. It is about homosexuality in general, you know. And not only, I mean, anyways, so I'm going to hold his feet to the fire, and I'm going to ask him the same questions, like, how'd you come to the conclusion, or based on what? Based on what are you know? And it's hard. And keep in mind, guys, like so the third step in Columbo is, can you clear something up for me? So that's the last question. That's the third step. Can you clear something up for me that we didn't go over? That step takes a little bit of legwork on our part. That means we have to do the legwork and we have to know what the scriptures say. That's why it's important when we go back to, like, we have to know what's true and what's false. We have to be reading our Bibles and knowing the topics and the subject matter. I mean, it's not like we can just solve every problem by asking questions. We do actually have to know stuff. So it's important that we do the hard work. But that's kind of like what we're launching. Like this is what we're doing here. You know, that's what apologetics is all about, and deep theology.
We're not debating.
It's wish-washy. When you watch the debate with McDowell in the kindest, gentlest, most amazing way completely mops the floor with him.
Is that on the website?
Yeah, it's on. If you just Google Sean McDowell, Matthew Vines, it'll come up. And because Sean, all he does is the whole time he just appeals to the ethic of Jesus. Yes, Matthew, but what did Jesus believe? And yeah, I actually kind of felt bad for Vines. Vines ended up leaving early. That night he was supposed to have dinner with me, and he didn't want anything to do with me. And I felt really bad, but he knew it. But he came in completely unprepared and got mopped up. And the next morning, I drove him to the airport, and it was one of the most awkward rides I've ever had. I mean, he didn't want. He was looking out the window the entire time. It was like, I think I'm a pretty fun guy. I don't need to talk about anything serious. I was just like, hey, so you dropped out of Harvard. Why? Like, wish I dropped out of Harvard. I don't know, because that means you got into Harvard. Although I don't think I really care. But anyways, yeah, watch the debate, and it's really great. What Sean does there is masterful.
Yeah, it's hard to know that that
Yeah, it's like it was great. It was so much fun, and Sean did a great job. And it was actually more of a conversation between them. I stayed out of it. I was moderating, and I think I said like 2 words the entire time. They were having a good conversation. But yeah, Matthew Vines can be tricky. Did you guys have another question? You guys are good? Are there any other questions? No? Okay, so what do you say we take a 15-minute break and we come back for the last session? Are you guys good?
That was perfect.
Do you guys love me? Haha. Why do you love me? You have to. That's right. Made in the image of God. Yeah. I will own that forever.
Sir?
Putting fire to it. John, pancaked is a code word for guns.
Code word for what?
Guns.
I did not know that. I'm one of the ways, one of the truths, one of the possible life. You can come to the Father through me or not. No, live and believe whatever seems right for you as long as you're sincere. Oh, and as long as it doesn't hurt anyone. So this is back to my favorite book of the Bible, Second Opinions. 14:6. What's the matter with this verse? Yeah. This is not what Jesus said, is it? What did Jesus say? That's right. There are no exceptions. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. This was the number one verse that would get me going as an atheist if you quoted this verse to me. It drove me nuts. Because it's a claim to exclusivity. How dare you, as a Christian, claim to have a corner on truth? Yeah, well, even yeah. Anyways, we don't need to get back into a role play. It's so easy for me to slip back in there. But even, yeah, thank you. Somebody said, thank God. Because it's a claim to have the corner on truth, an exclusive claim. What about all the other people? What about all the other religions? What about the people who have never heard? What about the people who have heard and just disagree? What you're saying is that there's only one way. You're saying that you think you're right and everybody else is wrong. Actually, what I would have said is, I actually similar to what kind of like my mom says now, is what my mom says is, well, that's true for you, but it's not true for me. I want you to notice when somebody says something like that to you, that's true for you, but it's not true for me, it really doesn't take our claim seriously. Because I'm not making that kind of statement. It's not a relativistic statement. I'm saying that he is either the way or he's not the way. You can't have it both ways. So it's not true. Like, Jesus can't be the way for you and not for you. It doesn't work like that. And the culture is actually dominated, I think, by this ethic, by this philosophy. It's the most common philosophy of thinking today. It's called relativism. So relativism is simple. This is just a working definition. It's a doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to culture, society, and historical context, and they're not absolute. It's belief that objective truth does not exist. And when I say objective truth, what I mean is true for all people, all places, all times. It's truth claim about the object itself, not my opinion about it, not the subject. And we're going to get into this a little bit, and we'll take a truth test in a minute. Friedrich Nietzsche, he was an atheistic scholar, philosopher, probably the most influential philosopher of the last 200 years. Yeah, I like Friedrich Nietzsche. I like reading him. But he expressed it this way. He said that you have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, the only way, it does not exist. Basically, Nietzsche is making the claim that there is no truth. And to which I respond, really? What's a question that I would ask him?
What do you mean by that?
Is it true that there is no truth?
Is the statement true?
Frederick, you know better. Come on, buddy. You and your glorious mustache. Oh, I wish I had that mustache. Wouldn't I be so cool, bald with that thing? Unbelievable. My wife would say the same thing. I mean, if I ever had a mustache like that, you know I'm sleeping on the couch for a long time. This is the prevailing worldview everywhere, on the street today, on the college campus. And I know this from experience. I talked to you guys about some of the stuff I like to do on college campuses. And I have a short video I want to show you guys. And afterwards, I just want to talk about the video, some things that maybe pop out to you or that you observe. So let's see where we can go.
Hey, okay.
So would you say that you're a Christian because it's true?
Yes.
And what's it mean to be true?
To be true, I guess, is individualistic. Everyone has their own views on truth.
So is it just right and good for you, or is it right and good for everybody?
Well, when you assign yourself to those like collective beliefs, you really have to be careful about what you call true. But for me, like, what I believe in is because what I believe is true.
I'm asking if you guys grew up in any religious tradition.
Yeah, we grew up in an Islamic household, all three of us.
Okay, are you guys all three still Muslims?
Yeah.
Why are you guys Muslim?
Well, I just grew up on the faith. It made sense to me, and then gives me a sense of peace practicing.
If you could be shown Islam is not true, would you reconsider your belief system?
I don't think so.
Why not? That's a really interesting answer.
Just because like I personally like believe in it a lot. Like just it's not like I am Muslim because like I was like born into a Muslim family and everything. But like I did find the religion myself.
Is it, when you say it's true, is it true for everybody or is it just true for you?
That's a tough question. Yeah, but
I could say it's true for me. Everyone has their own beliefs. Everyone has their own ideology. So if you're saying that's one religion's true, the other's not, that's kind of not how it is. I let others believe what they believe, but let me believe what I believe, you know?
My first question to you is, are you a Christian?
No, I'm not.
And my next question is, why are you not a Christian?
My parents grew up in India and they were raised with really strict religious parents in Hinduism. And when they tried to instill that into me and my siblings at a young age, it didn't really set. I didn't really get the whole religion thing.
Would you say that they're equally valid, even though there's a contradiction, or is one way the right way and one way is the wrong way?
I think it's a personal choice. As long as it gives you a sense of peace for what you're following, then just go with that one.
Just go with whatever works, kind of.
For you, whatever gives you peace at the end of the day.
I wish this music followed me around everywhere I went. How tough would that be if like when I came in the room every time, I'd be like so cool, but that doesn't happen unfortunately. What stood out with you guys? Like what stood out? Sure, wishy-washy, true for you, true for me. Yeah. They weren't confident, okay. They don't want to offend. Yeah. They're thinking truth is subjective, religious truth especially. Did any statements and did anything like pop out to you like, whoa, that's crazy? Yes. I said to him, if I could show you that Islam is false, would you still believe it? And he said, yes.
One said yes, the other said maybe, the third
It didn't
didn't say anything.
say anything.
I would have been targeted if it didn't say anything.
Yeah, you've gone there. Yeah, maybe spend more time with him. Yeah. In fact, I have had conversations like this all the time on multiple university campuses in Southern California. And this is the response I get everywhere. There was only one student in my memory that stands out right now as I'm talking that actually was willing to defend an objective belief, and he was an atheist. When I talked to a young lady who was Catholic, and I pointed to her after I was done talking. I talked to the atheist. I said, hey, that young lady over there says that she's Catholic. Would you be willing to tell her that she's wrong? And he said, I wouldn't like it. Oh, thank you so much. And it would be hard, but yes, I'd be willing to say that. And he was an atheist. Everybody else is super wish-washy. Think about that for a second with me, guys. That if these kids, even if I could prove to them that their belief system was wrong, they would still believe it. That's relativism. That's where we are. Thank you for this water, by the way. That's where we are as a culture today. So here's some questions that we have to wrestle with. Well, the main question that we have to wrestle with for the next 3 hours.
Bring it.
What is truth? Yeah. Danielle's like, yeah. Everybody else is like, I'm so tired. My brain hurts. The question is what is truth? What is truth? Because when we say truth, we mean something by that. And we should know what we mean when we say truth. So I have these a couple definitions of truth up there on the screen. At least I think they're. Yeah, they are. So we can define truth according to a number of different ways. Truth is that which accurately reflects reality. Reality is the way the world really is. It accurately reflects the world. Truth is factually and logically correct. I love these next few. It's really cool. It gets my mind going. It's truth is discovered, not invented. Which means, in combination with this next one, that truth exists independent of being known. There's a whole lot of truths out there that haven't been discovered yet, which is really, really rad. Did you guys see in the news recently, there was some news about, it's not a planet, but there's like this thing that's orbiting our sun that's further out than Pluto, which is like, they just discovered this thing, which is like so rad because in the terms of space, it's pretty close. Like, and I'm just like, oh man, there's so much. That means like the young folks, like our students, they're gonna grow up and they're gonna discover a whole lot of amazing truths out there. You know, truth is not belief. That's the last one. Why do you think that's important to understand? Well, it's not relative, sure. What's that mean, do you think? What's the difference between belief and truth?
Well, there's a source of truth. That's the first question, right? Source of truth.
There's a source. Okay, yeah. Yes. That's right. So truth, belief may or may not be true. Yes, she's gone. I did the side eye thing to see if she was still here, to see how I wanted to present this because like any one of us can, right now, currently, I am convicted to, or under the assumption, how about that we probably hold any number of beliefs that are wrong. We just don't know it. That means like when we're confronted with truth, if our belief does not line up with it, we should change what we believe. That's right. So beliefs can be false. Truth can never be false. That's the difference. So people can hold false or true beliefs. That's the difference. And this is important with relativism because what relativism does is it wants to place everything into the belief category, even when it belongs in the truth category. And to understand relativism, we have to also understand that truth can be understood in two different ways. There's two kinds of ways something can be true. And for this conversation, this is where we're going to start talking about subjective versus objective. And in order to drive this point home, I use two examples, ice cream versus insulin. Mint chocolate chip ice cream is the best ice cream. How dare you say no? Chocolate? Eh. What's your favorite? Salted caramel? No way. What's you guys' favorite? Anything with peanut butter in. I can get with that. Okay. What's your favorite up there in the balcony? Oh, that's solid. That's a solid second. Does anybody like vanilla? Ew! I like it with root beer. That's no longer vanilla. Yes, so does it make sense? Does it make sense for me to tell you that your favorite flavor of ice cream is wrong? Why? It's subjective. It's a claim about my personal preference, my personal opinion. It's true about the subject, me, making the claim. It's my personal preference, my personal opinion. Now, on the other hand, there's this thing called insulin. If you had a condition known as diabetes, your doctor might prescribe to you insulin. Now, insulin involves, some of you guys probably know this from personal experience, you have to stick yourself with a needle. I don't like needles. Needles are scary to me. I don't want needles. And my daughter inherited this. I took her to get her blood drawn for the first time ever recently, and she passed out. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't with her. My wife was. It was her fault, not mine. No, I'm sorry, baby. No. Now, because I don't like needles, that means I don't like the idea of having to take insulin. If I went to the doctor and my doctor was said to me, hey, John, I'm sorry to tell you, but you've developed diabetes. And I said to him, I hate needles. And he said, well, okay, so you know what? Instead of needles, because you don't like them, I'm going to prescribe that you eat a pint of, you said, cookies and cream ice cream. Because you don't like the prescription of needles, we're going to go cookies and cream ice cream. Now, is that a good doctor or a bad doctor? Why is that a bad doctor? Because homie just killed me, right? Because insulin treats diabetes independent of my feeling about it. It's an objective truth. It's a truth claim about the object, insulin, regardless of how I feel about the means in which we get it into our body. And so when it comes to medicine, you choose what heals, not what you like. This is objective truth. And it's really important because it's about the object insulin and what's true about it. And relativism, so this is why this is important to understand this, which it seems like you guys have a good handle on. Have you guys heard about objective, subjective stuff before? It's not new because there is a test, and I'm serious, there is a test. So relativism at its core treats everything like ice cream. It puts everything in the personal preference, opinion category. Okay, especially religious and moral claims. So when you make a moral claim to a relativist, what they hear is your favorite kind of ice cream, not insulin. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. It's important. On relativism, you choose what you like, or you're the arbiter of what's true. There's no truth independent of your personal opinion. Everything is true for you or not. And that's where we're at as a culture. We saw it in the video, and it makes truth relative to the subject as opposed to the object. Now, this is where the test comes in. I'm going to make a couple claims, and you guys are going to have to tell me if it's objective or subjective. Now, I want you to pay attention to something here. It's about the nature of the claim, not whether the claim is true or not. Because an objective claim, I'm cheating here a little bit. I'm giving you a preview. An objective claim can be a false claim. It's about the nature of the claim. Is the claim objective or subjective? Is it a matter of personal preference, ice cream, or is it a matter of, is it objective, a matter of fundamental fact, a claim about the object itself? So you guys good? We want to take a test? Okay, your salvation is at stake. But don't worry, it's Sundays tomorrow, so you can get saved again. Nice. All right. Okay, let's start here. John is wearing a hot pink shirt. Who here thinks that this is a subjective claim? Who thinks it's objective? Ooh, interesting. Who wants to tell me, other than Danielle, why it's objective? Yeah.
Because there's no opinion, it's simply a fact.
Yeah.
That could be false. Technically, it's not a fact. It's not an opinion.
Yeah. So you can think of it this way. I am either wearing a hot pink shirt or I'm not. Now, who said subjective that would be brave enough to tell me their reasoning through it? Yeah.
There's different shades of pink. Who's to say what's not?
There's always one of you. There's always one of you. Yeah, if I put this specific shade, somebody always brings this up. Yes, there is, but even different shades of pink, when you get into it, actually have labels, names. But also notice, because oftentimes, so who here was thinking, oh, well, you could be colorblind? Did anybody think that? I got that one too. Well, you could be colorblind. And this answers the shades of pink example too. Even if you're colorblind, it doesn't matter, because what's being emitted from your shirt is a certain wavelength. And that wavelength is objective. It doesn't change according to my preferences about it. So this claim, when we think about these things, objective truth claims are either true or they're false. But it's not a matter of my personal opinion. My opinion doesn't change the nature of the color of my shirt. Are we okay, guys? Yeah, okay. It's objective. Okay, how about this one? Blue is the best color. Who says objective? Who says subjective? Who's scared to answer? Okay, who wants to tell me why it's objective? It's not objective, it's subjective. Gotcha. No, why is it subjective? Because it's a matter of personal opinion. Well, I think it's true too. But it's just like ice cream. You know, it's going to vary according to person. So a subjective truth claim is neither true nor false. It's personal preference and opinion. Objective truth claims are either true or false. Subjective are neither true or false. You guys good? All right. 2 plus 2. Okay, I'm going to change this one. 2 plus 2 equals 5. Who here thinks it's objective? 2 plus 2 equals 5. Who thinks subjective? 2 plus 2 equals 5. Who thinks it's subjective? Who wants to tell me why they think it's subjective? So who thinks it's subjective? Do you want to tell me why you think it's subjective? Because it's wrong? Okay. Same answer. Because it's wrong. Remember, we're looking at the nature of the claim. This claim, the reason why I switched it up is yeah? It is wrong. So remember, objective truth claims are either true or they're false. Does my opinion about the equation change the truthiness of the equation? If I wake up tomorrow and want 2 plus 2 to equal 5, does that make it 5? No. Yeah, how's it feel to want? That's right. So this is important because you can make a wrong claim and it's still objective. It's very, very important that we get this because this is where I think the culture gets messed up. That you can have a wrong objective truth claim. It's not about whether or not the answer is right. It's the nature of the claim. The claim is one. It's 2 plus 2 is either 5 or it's not. And it's not my opinion that makes the difference. Are you guys okay here? It gets harder and harder. Yeah? Correct. It's an objective standard. That's right. It's outside of my personal preferences, yes. It's good to want. That's what I tell my kids. Vacations are best when snowboarding. Who thinks it's objective? All right, so why is it subjective? It's my opinion. Right, yeah, some of you guys hate snow and some of you guys want to go to the ocean. I like the ocean too, but I just like vacations. I don't care what I do on them. Awesome, okay, yeah, so this is subjective, nice work. Okay, ooh. God exists. Who says objective? Who says subjective? Is there anybody that wants subjective? Are you sure? Sure. Yeah, but don't, yes, I'm glad that you said something. Yes, it is objective, but what I get in most instances, there's always one or two folks that will argue that it's subjective because it's just my opinion that God exists. But is it my opinion that makes God exist? Like, can I wake up tomorrow and be angry with God and be like, yeah, he doesn't exist today? God's existence doesn't ebb and flow according to our personal opinions about his existence. He either exists or he doesn't. And notice, guys, this is important as we get into the next couple of claims because it's going to get a little bit more difficult. I'm not making the argument for God's existence here. I'm looking at the nature of the claim. The nature of the claim. So that means the claim God does not exist is still objective. Is this getting tried? I should change that one to not exist. I wonder if that would be a little bit more controversial. But it's objective. Yes, exactly. Or non-existence. That's right. Jesus is the only way to salvation for all people. Who thinks subjective? Who thinks objective? So that's the way it has nothing to do with what we believe about the statement. Let's look at the claim. Jesus is either the only way or he's not the only way. It's not my opinion that makes Jesus the only way or not the only way. It's an objective truth claim. Are you guys doing okay? Because this is foundational. Like this is, if you can get this stuff down and then start listening to people talk, it's amazing what happens, especially combined with the tactics, because people relativize everything. They relativize everything. And if we can notice relativism when they're saying it and we say, oh wait, that's an ice cream claim for an insulin object. Like that it's a miscategory here. Because when you say that Jesus is the only way, I'm not saying I think Jesus is the only way or Jesus is the only way for me. I'm saying Jesus is or he is not the only way. There's a difference there. It's not just something for me, but it's actually a universal statement. It's really important. Murder, I'm going to define murder because this always comes up. Murder is, so if somebody says something like murder, you should ask what question? What do you mean by murder? Yeah. Murder is the intentional taking of an innocent human life. The intentional taking of an innocent human life. That's the legal definition of murder in this country. I think that that's what God means by murder, is the intentional taking of an innocent human life. So murder is immoral. Who thinks it's subjective? Who thinks it's objective? Wow, you guys, seriously, you guys are doing really great. Why do you guys, it is objective. Why do you think it's objective? I hope you guys are telling me the truth when you're raising your hands. Because like some of you are like waiting. What's everybody else going to do? Oh yeah, that one. You know, I should have you guys close your eyes. Like that'd be amazing. No, because you guys would still peek. Who wants to explain this? Why is murder is immoral, an objective truth claim? Yeah, it's either, you said it great. The way I sum it up is it is either immoral or it is not immoral. And it's not my opinion about the subject that changes it. Murder is considered immoral. Why would that change it? I haven't thought about this. If you said, I think murder is immoral, what you're trying to do, and this is where we get confusing as a culture. What we're trying to do is we're taking an objective truth claim and we're trying to make it relativistic. That's why when we speak, it's important for us, like if I'm arguing abortion, abortion's my big thing. Like I love talking about abortion. I don't know, that doesn't sound right. But I have a huge heart for the unborn. I love defending the unborn. And I almost never, I've trained myself to never start a sentence with I think. Because that's not what I'm saying. I think murder is wrong. No. Murder is wrong. Because I want to get any ambiguity out of the conversation, like what we talked about in the ambassador's talk. We want to remove any obstacles here. And that's oftentimes what we bring. We bring this ambiguity. We relativize things when we say, I think. That's why we should never we don't ever ask the question like, what does this Bible passage mean to you? It's relativizing the Bible passage. What did Paul mean by this? Boom. You know, some of you are like, wait a second. Or the application is different, but that's a whole different talk. Okay, murder is immoral. You guys are so good. This is amazing. Awesome. Okay, elective abortions are immoral. Elective abortions are immoral. Who thinks that's a subjective truth claim? Okay, why? Well, subjective. He's defending subjective.
Well, it's based on your belief. Is it immoral or, like, why did you come to that conclusion?
Ha ha, you can't do this to me. I've read that book too. I teach that stuff.
That is based on opinion.
How so?
Well, okay, I can see the objective. It's either immoral or it's not immoral. But you add the word elective.
That throws people off. Yeah, the reason why I throw the word elective in there is because, again, it eliminates another part of the conversation that I just don't want. Keep in mind, I give this talk not just in churches, but on college campuses, on tons of different environments, where if I say elective abortions, that means abortions for any reason at any time. And so it skirts the, well, what about medical necessity, right? What about incest or rape and these things?
So those would not be,
That's a different conversation.
I heard that it's for the mother's health.
No, that is right. That is right. So it eliminates that. So we are focusing on strictly when the mom, it's elective, meaning it's not an emergency situation. It's not a necessity. Okay. I like how you're backing out of this now. That's good. You have completely saved face. So I'm not going to say anything because he's my ride. No, but you're right. No, but I'm glad though. Here's the deal, guys, is you guys, I'm not just saying this, like you guys are doing way better at this than most. You must have a really good pastor here that's training you up. But like, no, but these things are important because most of the time when I talk about this, they get half of them, they mix the categories up, especially when we start talking about theology and morality. It is an objective claim that, and notice, and where people get hung up, so I teach this every year. They bring me into a local, actually it's like the hoity-toity high school. My wife used to be a math teacher there until this year. She just quit, which is, yeah. But it's funny how have you guys ever noticed that Christian schools aren't necessarily Christian? Yeah. So I go into this high school and I teach just the senior debaters. They have like one of the nation's top debate teams. And so I teach them their final. I'm friends with their teacher. And for their final, I go in for 6 weeks and I train them in apologetics and I bring in an atheist that they have to debate for their final. They have to debate an atheist on stage. And it's really fun. We have a great time. And even with Christian kids from good Christian homes, a lot of them are from good, solid Christian homes, when we start talking about morality or the existence of God, they want to confuse the claims. Who am I to say abortion is wrong? Right? Who am I to say that Jesus is the only way? But the thing is when we confuse those claims, when we start placing the claims of God's existence and moral claims in the realm of subjectivity, again, it doesn't take our view seriously. It doesn't take Jesus' view seriously. Jesus is either the only way or he's not. It's not up to us to decide. Abortion is either immoral or it's not. It's not up to society. And society wants to confuse those things. And when we can start recognizing that, we can start pointing that out to people. You can say something to like, well, I understand that this is how you're thinking, but the claim I'm making is actually an objective claim. Abortion is immoral or immoral. It's not about what you think about it. It's about the actual act.
And you have to say things more than once.
Oh, and you got to go slow.
You can't tell a class of students one time teaching them this, and then the next 4 years of school, they're inundated with the relativism. It's like, yeah, but I told you.
Yeah. I mean, it's taking us decades to get here. So now, it's going to take a long time to undo. But it starts right here with us. And that's why it's important. Like, again, all of this is cumulative, guys, that we've been talking about. This is why every session has kind of built on itself. It's important that we start listening to what people are saying and asking them questions. And then when they make relativistic statements, now what we can do is on top of this, we can say, hey, wait a second. That's relativism. I got to slow this conversation down. I'm going to try to see if they understand what they're saying is actually, they're making an objective claim. They're trying to make it relative. They're trying to relativize the claim. And we point it out so that we can further the conversation and point these things out to you. And it's also how we make headway in these discussions, like especially the abortion discussion. So why does any of this at all matter, right? That's the question. And I have a friend, Francis Beckwith, who teaches at Baylor, and he actually asked his students this, right? So one of the students, he's been teaching on truth, and he says, we've talked a lot about truth, but why does truth even matter? And I love how he responded to his student. He said, do you want the true answer or the false one? Nobody likes being lied to. We all want to know what the truth is. But the problem is, and it's something that I'm not belaboring the point, I'm not trying to at least, but the problem is that people think morality and religion are ice cream claims when in fact they're actually religious. They're insulin. And so you can't just pick what you like. That's not how it works. We don't sit at a cornucopia table of a cornucopia of religions and just use what works like my Muslim friends. When I asked him, would you change your view? And he said, no, if you can't, that's not the world we live in. And I stressed that to him too. I was like, okay, so you just choose what works for you? Well, imagine if we lived in a world that we lived according to just what works for us, utilitarian society. What works for me might not work for you, and it might come at, a great cost to you, especially, I'm a big guy. If that's where we get might makes right stuff, yeah. And so if you read Schaeffer and Piercy, what Schaeffer says is that we've taken claims of religion and morality and we've put them in the lower story. There's an upper story and a lower story. and we place them in the lower story, which is firmly relativistic. So it's important to understand this too. So not just when we're listening to people, but also when we're talking to people. Keep in mind, when you're talking to somebody who's a relativist, they might not even know they're a relativist. So that means when you're making claims about God and about morality, what they're hearing are insolent claims because they've been trained to hear that. So it might take us more time to explain to them that that's not what we mean. That's why I think it's really important that we get rid of the I think language. This is the way it is, or it's not. And we go for the gusto with that. Unfortunately, this issue has affected an awful lot of people in our culture, especially students. So this is Christian Smith, and this is from his book called Soul Searching. He says, American youth, like American adults, are nearly without exception profoundly individualistic. The typical bywords are, who am I to judge? If that's what they choose, whatever. Each person decides for himself, and if it works for them, fine. And this quote here by Alan Bloom, this is from the closing of the American, I'll just read it to you guys. The closing of the American Mind. This is a great quote. Listen to this. This is written in 1987, by the way. This is not new. There's one thing a professor can be absolutely sure of. Almost every student entering the university believes or says he believes that truth is relative. The students, of course, cannot defend their opinion. It is something with which they have been indoctrinated. This is what the culture has trained us to think. Now what we're trying to do is undo that training, helping them to look at things not according to everything in relativistic terms. Relativism is not terrible when it's applied properly. It's okay to be relativistic when it comes to ice cream flavors. It's not okay to be relativistic when it comes to insulin. And we know that. Isn't that funny that we know that intuitively when it comes to medicine? Nobody wants a relativistic doctor. Nobody. You don't want to go to the doctor and have him treat you according to how he feels that day. It's bad, bad, bad. So this is why it matters when we apply relativism. We see why it matters when we apply relativism to the world around, especially in regards to morality and religion. And so ideas have consequences. I've said this before. And relativism is one of those ideas that has had profound consequences on our culture. And here are just some of them. Relativism undermines sin. Why do you think relativism undermines sin? Sin is relative. Well, think about it. When we relativize sin, what happens? You make excuses, you normalize it, make it okay. Yeah, that's right. Because if you're a relativist, that means you know that there's no right way or wrong way to live. So it completely does away with sin. Well, until it happens to them, absolutely. But then, yes, until it happens to them, absolutely. If relativism is true, then there's no objective morality, which is what we talked about, in the context of my story. If there's no objective morality, that means there's no standard by which we determine right and wrong. If there's no way to determine, if there's no standard to judge what is right and wrong, that means nothing is ultimately sinful. That means there is no sin. That's what I mean it undermines sin. If there's no objective morality, there is no sin. If there's no sin, guess what? There's no guilt. And if there's no guilt, there's no need for a pardon or a rescue. If there's no need for a pardon or a rescue, there's no need for Jesus. So that's why this is so important. Think about the effects of this. So when we say something is sin to the culture around us that's steeped in relativism, when we say that you need Jesus, people don't hear that anymore. Because there's no objective nature to it. Things get lost in translation there because things have been redefined. Reality has been redefined by relativism. It completely undermines the gospel. I love Lewis here. Is this Lewis? It's okay, good. This quote here is, it's after you realize that there's a moral law and a power behind that law and that you've broken that law and put yourself wrong with that power, it's after this and not a moment sooner that Christianity begins to talk. In Judges, we see what happens, the result of moral relativism. If you remember the Judges, right? In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. That's moral relativism personified. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. And what happened? Chaos. Absolute chaos. And that's what happens when the culture believes in relativism. That's the first consequence. It undermines sin. Second consequence is relativism undermines our mission. Jesus said in Matthew that we should go and make disciples. He says, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded. Right? But if relativism is true, then there's no obligation to do that. Think about it. Like, so if relativism is true, then Christianity is just one of many religions. There's all roads lead to Rome, right? All these mountains, all these roads up to the mountaintop. That means choosing a religion is like choosing your favorite flavor of ice cream. So just pick whatever you like, whatever tastes good, and you can change it at any time. You know, if it's not working for you that day, choose a different religion. You know, if Christianity is not the only true religion, what's the motivation for evangelism? Like, why share your faith? Like, why go and make disciples? Why teach them to observe everything that's been commanded by Christ? You know, so the consequence number 2 is relativism undermines our mission. And when you apply relativism to religion, this is when you get things like religious pluralism. You know, religious pluralism says that you pick the, you pick the religion that works for you. And we see it expressed in these amazing bumper stickers. It's so cool. I love coexist stickers. They're fantastic. Why? Because I see a coexist sticker, and if the person stops, I just have to talk to them. What do you think I ask them? What's that sticker on your truck mean? And then I listen to what they say. It's absolute nonsense 90% of the time because they have absolutely no idea. Yeah, well, know what? So I know why I say a truck is because, so check this out. I was in a parking lot of Target. I've got extra time here, I think, maybe. I don't know. I was outside in Thousand Oaks, you know, crazy California with the land of fruits and nuts. But I was sitting in the Target parking lot, or I was getting in my car or something, and then I saw a truck pull in. It was like one of those little like Isuzu trucks, so not like a real truck, you know, 2-wheel drive, like not a man truck, you know, but and it pulled in, and when it packed like right in front of me, like I'm here, and it packed like across the kind of driveway, and it was plastered with these stickers. Like it literally had like 100 coexist stickers on it. I was like, this is incredible. Oh, you know what? No, the truck was already there. I pulled in and saw this truck. This is why, because anyways, I'll tell you why I remembered this. The truck was already there. I pulled in and I see it, and I started waiting for the person to come out because I was like, I can't wait to talk to this person. Like, I have to. You know, I'm thinking like, how can I film this? You know, because like this would be amazing. And I waited and waited, and the person that came out was like, I don't know, like a 19-year-old little like girl, like short little girl. I was like, oh, I can't go in. Like that'd be weird. Like this creepy big bald guy like comes up to you in the middle of a Target parking lot in the middle of the night. You know, but it's funny how this takes a hold. You know, this is relativism applied to religion. You know, well, can't we all just get along? You know, they're all the same. All roads lead to Rome. You know, just pick what works for you and let bygones be bygones. There's no truth in any of it. But think about it. If religion is subjectively true, like when we say if relativism rules the day and religion is in the subjective category, what do people think when we say that Christianity is true, or that Jesus died for your sins, or even when we say come to church? You know, and what they're going to react to you just like you're saying what your favorite flavor of ice cream is. You see why this is important to understand where the culture is at and what they're thinking, because sometimes I do wish this lady was here still, because sometimes the gospel's just not as simple as it used to be. Because the terms have been redefined. Because the culture is ruled by a different philosophy than it was 50 years ago. So it's like when we just share the simple gospel, it's not simple anymore because the culture's ears aren't hearing it the same way. It's all relativist. Mm-hmm. Oh, Episcopalian church down over to the Wiccan church. Like, so she said she goes Episcopalian one day and the next day she goes to the Wiccan church. I would be so confused. Yeah. What's a question you could ask her? Why do you do that? Yeah, I mean, it would be great to talk to her about those views, but I mean, I would say that she might be relativistic. You know, I'm learning principles from both. Well, what about the principles that don't jive? What about I am the way, the truth, and the life? No one comes to the Father but by me. What about not worshiping nature? What about worshiping one true God? But that's where we're at. When we make these claims about Christianity or ask people to come to church even with us, like what they're hearing, like when we say that you need rescuing from your sin, what they're hearing is like, that's just your opinion. Even though that's not what we're saying, that doesn't take our view seriously. Yeah. 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 It was different. Yeah, it was different, and that means like so we never change the truth of what we communicate, but how we communicate it we can change, because the ears that are listening aren't listening the same way, and that's why what worked 50 years ago doesn't necessarily work today, because when we make these claims, there's been a fundamental shift in how people hear these claims. They're not hearing. They're hearing, "This is my opinion about you. This is my opinion about Christianity. This is my opinion about Jesus." But they're not hearing, wait, no, actually I'm making an objective truth claim. We already talked about similarities in religion, so we can skip that. But so this is when we apply relativism to religion. We get religious pluralism. All roads lead to Rome. But when we apply relativism to morality, this is where we get moral relativism. And basically what happens is morality is up to you to decide. You know, whatever blows your hair, well, some of your hair's back. Clearly not mine. Jesus obviously loves some of you more than me. This is where you get like what's right for you is what's right or wrong for you is up to you. To decide. This is moral relativism. Morals are relative to the person. But again, it doesn't take our view seriously. When we say something is wrong, we mean it in an objective sense. That's why we never should say, "I think that this is wrong." We should say this is wrong. It is wrong to take the life of an innocent human being. And then we can argue our case as to why. Because if morals are subjectively true, what are people going to think when you say certain morals, like you shouldn't judge? This is where these statement comes. Don't judge me. Don't force your morals on me. To each his own. That's where these statements come from. They come from moral relativism. Again, I point us back to Judges. Right? When moral relativism rules the day, it's a mess. This is why we're in the mess we are today. Like we live in a society where boys are girls and boys are girls and girls are boys. And I'm not saying that pejoratively or to poke fun or to lessen the issue, because I think it's a very important issue, and gender dysphoria is a real thing and it should be taken seriously, and we should respond to this. But this is because of relativism. We've extended relativism into the gender category. Now you are how you feel you are. Which is really interesting, which is crazy. Notice the lengths that we've gone to support our relativism in this category especially. Instead of changing our minds, it's much more acceptable to change our bodies, which is permanent, instead of changing our minds. It's now certain places. I was just in Colorado, like I said. Colorado, it's now being held up it's now being struck down, I think, by the higher court, the state Supreme Court. But when I was there earlier in the summer, they had passed a law saying that if a parent misgendered their kid, they can be taken away from their. Yeah, this is just wrong. So you're going on an 8-year-old's opinion about how they feel. Since when have we let feelings rule? Imagine if we lived according to our feelings. This is relativism. How you feel. And this is where we get in Judges. This is why I think the Bible is true in all that it purports to teach. When there was no king, and everybody just did what they wanted. There was no standard to live by because the king was gone, and when there's no God, then there's no standard to live by. And so when we as a culture throw God out of the window, that's when we also throw the standard out. That's why relativism is so important. The sad thing is actually a lot of Christians live like there's no God. They might believe in God, they might go to church, they might even sing praise songs and hymns on Sunday mornings, but they're functional atheists. And that comes out when we start looking at the statistics. I think I removed the slides. I don't know, maybe, I did. But there's statistics like 34, listen to these, 34% of Christian adults said moral truth is objective. That means 66% believe it's subjective. 66% of professing Christians, and this study, this is out of the Worldview study out of Colorado Christian. It's Barna, and when they define Christian, what they mean is a Christian who is committed to a local church, is involved in the church, and commits and says they go to church at least 2 times a month. So it's not like you're, Creasters. Do you guys know that Creasters, Christmas and Easter only? Right, yeah. It's not those. It's actually committed Christians, and they're saying that the Christian adults, 18 to 34, 34% of them believe in objective morality. 9, listen to this one, 9% of Christian teens say moral truth is objective. 9. So there are consequences, and this is the way the culture is going, and we should be convicted as Christians to dive in. Okay, the trick of tolerance. We kind of talked about this. I don't know if I want to go through it. We will. Okay. Yeah, well, the trick of tolerance, we talked about it, like nobody wants to be labeled intolerant, guys. And I get it. But as Christians, we're going to be labeled a whole bunch of things. Christians have, since the founding of Christianity, since Jesus rose from the dead, Christians have been labeled. And they've been labeled by a lot worse than being labeled intolerant. But notice that when we talked about this briefly in Tactics Talk, there's been a shift in how we've defined tolerance. So tolerance today, or in the culture, means total agreement with somebody, accepting of all ideas. Not even just accepting or an agreement, but now to tolerate something means to affirm it. Like if you're not totally affirming of this idea, somehow you're intolerant or you're not tolerant. But the real definition of tolerance is this: to recognize and respect others' beliefs and practices without sharing them, to bear or put up. Notice that to bear or put up with someone or something not necessarily liked. In other words, guys, like in this definition, to put up with or to bear, tolerance is disagreeing with someone's viewpoint, but then still respecting the person. That's what it means to tolerate the person. You offer the person respect. Why do we respect people? Because they're made in the image of God. But we don't respect all ideas because there are, in fact, really bad ideas. Not all ideas are worthy of respect. So in order to, what the new tolerance is saying is that in order to tolerate something means you have to have total disagreement, but that's just not true. I have to disagree with your belief in order to tolerate it. They have it exactly backwards. Does this make sense to you guys? Am I communicating this rightly, I think? I hope, maybe. Yeah. I have a lot of friends that I tolerate. I welcome them into my home. I let their kids play with my kids, no matter where they are in their worldview lines. And when we tolerate people, what it means is we have a fundamental disagreement, but we're willing to put up with that disagreement for the sake of relationship. It doesn't mean I hide the truth from them either. I shared my story about the person I used to work with, and that's a great example of that, where I tolerated this person I disagreed with, meaning I spent time with her and I got to know her and she trusted me because I was willing to tolerate. That's true tolerance. So don't be confused when somebody calls you intolerant, and then it goes back to what I said in tactics, right? They're just calling you a name, by the way. And sidestep that as much as you can. You can point it out, just be like, yeah, you're just kind of calling me a name. You could ask them what they mean by tolerance. But yeah, let's see here. So one solution, actually, I'll teach a tactic. I've got, oh my gosh, 2 minutes, but this is really fun. This is, no, we're gonna do this, okay. Watch this. You guys have to pay special attention to the screen because I did this for you. This is what I did for you. Guys, I'm gonna do it again. You guys are underwhelmed. You have no idea the amount of time this animation took. Here we go, you ready? Oh, thank you. Affirmation, yes. Whew. Yes. Amazing. That's why when I come to a church and like, oh, we can't use animations, I'm like, this took me like 2 hours. Thank you very much. No, this is a tactic. How do we address relativism in the culture? I think that this is really important. This is like nuts and bolts here. It's super simple, just like all the other tactics in our kind of our repertoire or whatever at Stand the Reason. It's called taking the roof off. The fancy word for if you want to wow your friends is reductio ad absurdum. It's reducing things down to their absurd. And what this tactic does is it capitalizes on the fact that some views are actually absurd, and they have absurd consequences. So what we do is there's just 3 steps to taking the roof off. It's super simple. First, we adopt the other person's view, right? For the sake of argument, we adopt the other person's view, and then we follow that view out to its logical conclusions. And then we ask a question that's going to graciously expose kind of the absurdity of this view. And this is something that we all do intuitively, by the way, already. And I have an illustration of this. So say you have a kid, right? You've all done this with your kids in some regard. Okay, so I have a kid, and say my kid starts smoking, right? So I ask the question, why'd you start smoking? And then my kid says, because all my friends are doing it. What's the question you're going to ask as a parent? That's right. That's right. If all of your friends jumped off the cliff, would you jump off the cliff too, right? That's a reductio ad absurdum. You're just for the sake of the argument, you're following the argument to, just because your friends are doing something, is that justification for you to do it? Because smoking is stupid. Okay? I can say that now. That's good. Smoking, that's a reductio ad absurdum. Jesus, he did this with with the Pharisees, and in Matthew 12. If you guys remember this, right, he's talking about Beelzebub. And so the Pharisees come to him. Jesus is doing all these miracles, casting out demons. And then the Pharisees say that this man casts out demons only by Beelzebub, the ruler of the demons. And knowing the thoughts, Jesus is amazing, right? He knows their thoughts, and he said to them, any kingdom divided against itself is laid to waste, and any city or house divided against itself shall not stand, right? If Satan casts out Satan, he's divided against himself. How shall his kingdom stand? He's doing the same thing. He's taking their argument and he's saying, you're saying I'm casting out Satan by Satan. It makes no sense. It's a reductio ad absurdum. So how can we do this, right? So taking the roof off of moral relativism. Oh, sorry, guys. I had all those cool things. Okay, let's just do this. Sorry. I'm getting excited with my clicker. Okay, morals are relative, and what's right for you is wrong for me. Now, you could go tactics on them. You could go Columbo. Right? Or you could go reductio ad absurdum, adopt their view, and logically what follows? I could say, well, then I can punch you in the face. And that would be true for me. Like I am trying to start a new ethic, and that ethic is if I like you, I'm going to punch you as hard as I can right in your face. No, don't do that. Or do what I did before, where which I've done in the past, steal the person's phone. The best one I've ever done, I did this to my friends back home because we were having this conversation. I was out at the bar with my friends. Don't judge me, guys. I don't drink. I just go to the bar because that's what the unbelievers are. I love unbelievers. So I'm going to meet them there. When I'm home back east, I'll go to the bar with them and I'll have conversations with them. And so I'm sitting there at the bar, and one of my friends, he's saying this like morals are relative, right? Like he's like textbook stuff. So what I did is, it was great. I actually took his car keys. It was amazing. And I took them, I put them in my pocket, I walked out the bar, I hopped in his car, and I drove away. 2 seconds later, he's calling me on my phone. I hit the end call. Not that easy. Hit the end call again. Finally, like 10 minutes later, I'm just packed right down the street, waiting for this moment. What do you do with my car? I did the same thing as I did with the phone. I was, what do you mean, your car? This is my car. This is the new ethic, homie. Welcome. I'm just doing me. Whatever blows my hair back, right? Well, right now, what lights my candle is, well, I really wanted your, Mazda 3 or whatever it was. It wasn't even a good car, but like whatever, And so like that's what we do. This is reductio ad absurdum. This is taking the roof off of their argument. Take their view seriously, adopt it for the moment, and then carry it out to its logical ends. When they say morals are relative, show them the end result of living that way. Yeah, well, I'm different. My definition of gracious is different. I'm playing. I'm joking. That's relativism. No, yeah, you do want to be gracious about it. You don't want to read the room, right? That's what we're trying to teach our kids. That's the saying right now, Miles. Read the room. Like, not every instance do you want to slap somebody across the face, steal their khakis or the phone. You know, you might want to use some tact or just try to explain to them. Well, what if everything is relative and morals are relative? What happens when, what happens when Hitler wants to kill all the Jews? Right? That's a great thing that you can do. Let's see here. Okay, the next one is taking the roof off of religious pluralism. All religions teach the same thing. This we've already talked about. All religions teach the same thing. So accept for the moment that what they're saying is true, and then what follows logically? Well, absurdity. And we saw this with the person and the work of Jesus. You can point this out to them. This is part of the well, okay, so on some religions it's one God exists. On others it's many gods exist. On some religions God is personal. On other religions he's not personal. On some religions God has a son. On other religions he doesn't have a son. On some religions teach that when you die you're reincarnated. Others teach that you go to heaven or hell, and others say you're annihilated. But when you die, you're either annihilated, reincarnated, or you go to heaven or hell. It can't be all of those things at once. So in the statement that they're making, all religions teach the same thing. It's absurd. It's absurd. It's not taking seriously any world religion. And you can point that out. It's absurd. So let me close with this, and then we can do maybe a couple minutes of questions. Oh man, we're way past time.
Well, hurry up then.
I am so sorry.
We're still here.
I don't know how that happened. Okay, guys, if there's a God, then he's the standard of morality. He's the objective standard. And that means relativism is false. And that means if there's an objective standard, that if an objective standard exists, that means we all stand before God guilty. Right? And this is why this is important. Right? Paul says that we've all sinned. We all fall short of the glory of God. And since we're all lawbreakers, we deserve to be punished. Or we can be pardoned. Well, what religion offers the pardon? Only Christianity. Only Christianity. That's right. There's only one religion that offers a pardon from God, and that's Christianity through Jesus Christ. Only through Jesus Christ can we be pardoned. Jesus says in John 14:6, right? This is where we started. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. No one comes to the Father but by me. That's Jesus in a nutshell saying religious pluralism is false, right? Religious belief isn't subjective truth, and there is only one way to God. And I'm thankful to God when we start thinking about this. I'm thankful to God that we've come to know the truth and we've received his pardon through Jesus. But that means we should all be asking God to motivate us to share this objective truth with the world around us. It's out of this idea, the idea of objectivity, not relativism, not subjectivism, but but objectivity, that we are moved to the culture around us to go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that he has taught, everything, every jot and tittle. And that's why we can know our Bibles are true. Jesus is who he says he is. With that, let me pray, and then you guys can do what you want, but I'm going to get something to eat. All right. Holy Father in heaven, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to meet my brothers and sisters for the first time. I'm thankful for this day that you've given us, Lord. I'm thankful for the things that we've gone through. Gosh, I am so thankful that you are the God who's there. You're real. It's you don't bend and break according to my whims or my personal desires, but you are constant. You're always there. And in that, Lord, we are thankful most of all for Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. I thank you for the minds that you've given us, the information that we're processing today, and I thank you for each and every person here and their attention today. As we leave here, Lord, our goal is modest. Tonight, as we lay our heads down on our pillows, would we just look a little bit more like your son? Would we look just a little bit more like Jesus? And as always, would we wake up tomorrow morning, a day we've set aside for you, Lord, would we be a little bit more willing to look at the world and see people as you see them and move towards them according to the true story of reality? You are the God who's there. You answer our prayers. You've offered us this pardon that's almost unfathomable. And God, as always, would you just help us love you more and each other better? In Christ's name, amen. Guys, I really appreciate your attention. This is a long day. Thank you so much. Whew.